Welcome everyone. The goal of this series is to have a conversation with your favorite traders as well as DeFi analysts, getting to learn a little bit more about how they think, what makes them tick, and most importantly, get a glimpse into their journey. So it'd be remiss to call myself a Stoic and not start with a quote from a Stoic. Epictetus has a saying that goes something like, "Life is like a play. It's not the length, but the excellence of the acting that matters." So I really believe you're the protagonist in your story. The plot is yours to create, and along these lines, I personally enjoy learning about other people's journeys. And I hope you're able to take away something insightful as you join me in learning about other people's journeys. We're also going to be covering a lot of trading, how people use their edge, how they deploy their edge, and how their trading has evolved over time. So without further ado, today I have my friend Nik Algo with me. First and foremost, thank you for taking the time out to do this with me, Nick. We've been planning this for quite a while, and obviously there's the time zone discrepancy, but we finally made it happen. How's it going, man?
Hello, hello. It's going pretty good. Also appreciate you having me here. The time difference is actually makes it a little bit harder to manage, but we did
But
it.
we made it happen. Yeah, we
Yes,
made it happen.
that's awesome.
So I guess to start it off, what I'm really curious to hear is what started your journey into crypto and trading, and was it at the same time, or was it separate? Like, what was your first exposure to both, to either or both?
My first experience with cryptos, like the first time I heard it, it was actually around back in 2013, back in 2014. Those days, I was still pretty young in school, and my uncle he told me about some cryptocurrency which you can mine. It's called Bitcoin, and the futures after it. So that moment, I did some basic research, and even was thinking of starting some mining, but it was probably like a really quick thing which I went through and never really started anything serious back at the time. At the same time, it was a perfect moment. And for that, since that, I was actually just keeping an eye on a few coins. I saw the Ethereum launch, XRP as well, around like 2016, 2017, and obviously the infamous 20k pump of Bitcoin in 2017. Also was watching it, but I was not participating in the market. And I joined crypto, started trading in 2019. Just it was essentially not even trading. I just bought a few coins. I decided, yeah, why not? Let me give it a go, and it evolved into like everything what I've done so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting you mentioned like 2012, 2013. I think that's kind of the first time I got exposed to it as well. The entire Silk Roads thing. I remember reading an article about the black market and how Bitcoin was being used.
Hmm.
And I basically knew nothing about crypto, but I read about the Silk Roads article, and that's the first time that I got exposed to it, and it piqued my interest at that time. Um,
We're
and
quite
yeah, so
actively using it, like quite actively using it even up to this date. I think right now like the Monero is the coin for payments, and obviously the BTC. Um, but yeah, nothing you can do about it.
yeah, exactly. And back then there weren't any resources either, right? I mean, I didn't know there was a community on Twitter or if there was a Discord community. So whatever information I got was, open source from online, just trying to look up anything I could find. I didn't even know like Bitcoin was, deflationary in nature, or there was like a limited supply. You know what I mean? So like all of that kind of information was pretty hidden.
Yeah, there was not many resources back in the day as well when I started, just learning about mining, like at early stages.
Exactly.
Like never done it, but I looked into it, and I heard a few, like read a few posts about that. There's a high chance you can get, for example, malware software installed, or even like there are still, I think, up to this day, there are viruses which hide in your computer and are used like using your processing power for mining something. Like it depends, might be probably already not Bitcoin, but some other
Yeah, it's
coins.
funny. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Actually, I was having a conversation with someone else, and they were telling me how one of their friends in school basically used the entire district's like some crazy thing where they had a wrapper where they used the entire district's the school district's computers to basically mine Bitcoin in the background.
Well,
It's
that's
insane.
efficient use of resource, I would say.
Yeah,
It's tricky.
he was thinking for sure. So I guess you talked about like how you got into trading. What really attracted you to trading? Did you have like friends that were trading, or what was the influence there? Like, what really made you get into it?
I mean, my like trading experience started as well. I would say probably not even trading. It would be more wise to say about like investing. I started back in 2016, like when I decided to seriously learn about it, and it was for stock market. I heard about the Elliott wave theory. Just as, like, it was really like something I came across just randomly, and I'm like, there's Elliott wave theory which you can use to kind of predict where the markets will go or analyze them, and it really is like stand out. Like that, what I found got my attention, got my interest, and I decided to learn more about it as well, about the technical analysis. Also was looking to do fundamental analysis. Just essentially value investing. Um, like my family overall, like I would say a lot of it coming like with financial background. So I was always exposed to like economic talks, finance talks since I was a kid. So it was not something like completely new to me in terms of like finance, stocks. And I just decided, yeah, I think I'm ready for it. I'm gonna learn more. And obviously as well, right now I know that Elliott wave theory, it's a bit different story, but like it was kind of, it sounded magical for me. Like, yes, I will learn
Yeah.
it, and I'll be making money. Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that too, getting exposed to Elliott wave theory and all the waves and stuff. Wow, like this stuff really, it's gonna work and I'm gonna make a lot of money.
It sounds like magic, but in
It does.
reality, it's in
In
reality,
reality, it's
it's a
garbage.
bit different. It's a bit different, yes, of course. At the same time, like the idea, I think, in my opinion, like idea behind Elliott wave theory, it's like coming from psychology, from human nature. So like there's still something to pick up from it. At the same time, yeah, it's not as simple as like drawing a few waves, and then, yeah, like we're in the
Yeah,
middle of
exactly.
wave C, getting correction. I'm not even an expert in it at this point. But that's how it started. And at that moment, I was essentially like doing some value investing with technical analysis entries, I would say. Mostly just looking for some interesting areas where you can just buy some stock. Essentially, it was like as simple as buying the dip, mostly. And it was like, some simple stocks. Like one of the big ones was Nvidia back in the day in 2017, which I purchased because I assumed that it's a big company, with big exposure to overall chip production. And what really kind of was the idea behind this investment was cryptocurrency mining. Because at that moment, if you remember, there was a lot of spikes in price of graphic cards,
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
assume that they'll be printing from that for a while. So it actually ended up being like a really major pump in 2020, 2021. But at the same time as well, like up to this date, I have this probably the main approach I use just for looking at stocks. Like I'm not really actively looking into it at the moment, but still, if I'm looking at something, it comes to a really simple idea that just look around yourself and see what people are using. Like for example, like my first bag was Nvidia, Apple, and Nike. Like people actively use those things, and they're gonna grow in the long term. And my main idea was kind of start investing early so I can get ahead of everyone else who started investing later, and let the compound interest do the work. And I was doing that for like 2017, 2018, 2019 period. And essentially, like, it was not something I was like actively doing intraday trading, but I was always looking at the stock prices on the markets, actively reading news. And I personally really love just world, the financial world. It's some sort of like TV show that never ends, in my opinion. There's always something happening. um, and yeah, at that stage I kind of decided, probably my decision, that I'm ready for crypto. One of my good friends actually recommended me, like, you should look at this. It was Chainlink and VChain, two essentially dead coins right now with still massive market cap. But
Yeah.
back in the day, it was something new, and they played out really well like throughout the 2020 and 2021. And I also bought some Ethereum, XRP at that moment, essentially the four main coins, and Bitcoin. Well, not without it. And the moment I started actively trading was the 2020 lockdowns. As I live in Sydney, we had pretty severe lockdowns here. Essentially, like, you cannot leave your house in a certain like range, like circle, essentially. And if you get caught, you'll be fined. And it was quite a big as well overall fear. I would say, like, the first times the COVID got around. So essentially, I love sitting at my computer. Like, I don't mind. Why not? And that's when I started overall actively trading crypto. I had a lot of time. I was still at uni, and it was probably one of the best decisions overall I ever made.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was COVID, I think, really shifted a lot of things in general. A lot of people got into crypto during that time as well. Just having that extra time, being able to just study trading and get into trading overall.
It was massive.
So
It was massive.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think you touched upon like some great points, and you kind of talked us through how your trading has evolved. But how did you learn in the beginning? Like once you started, like you talked about getting into Elliott wave theory and studying that. So from that to now, like what was the progression been like? How did you go about learning? Like what did your learning look like in general?
Starting as well as I mentioned from like technical analysis, I still think like it's pretty useful, for trading crypto because it's already about like the price mechanics and mainly the support, resistance, and zones where you have consolidation and there is liquidity considering containing stop losses and liquidations beyond the range. So it's not like there's a triangle, the price will go up, but it's more about like if price breaks out from here, there might be a good impulse. And even up to this day, I use technical analysis like for this reason, just like seeing where the consolidations, and you can as simple as eyeball it, just like see that their price haven't moved from this range for a long time. So if it will leave like either long or short, there should be a good impulse at least for a short period of time. Might mean reward, might continue the momentum. Already evaluate in the position, but it's probably like the realistic technical analysis in my opinion. And that's as well, like as I started learning it in 2016. By the moment I started trading crypto, and crypto back in 2019, 2020 was a bit different market than it's now. And even Bitcoin was moving really, really nicely with those breakouts from the consolidations. So in consolidation, there's pretty much nothing to do, but you keep an eye on it. And once you see, for example, price coming closer to the range, you might just take the breakout, whether it's short or long. And the main point were as well for me at that moment was like what are the odds, for example, like will it break out or it will just like mean revert and continue going into the range. And I decided kind of like do some research. And like the funniest thing about, like, I started with the dom trading. I was recommended using the order book essentially by one of my friends who never traded, like mainly investing only.
Oh, that's interesting.
But he said as well, like real professional traders, they use order books. I have no idea what is it, but take a look. It was as simple as that. And I
So he gave you
really,
some alpha. That was some
yeah, and I
alpha there.
really, and I really looked into it, and I found a few interesting channels online, which were using Scalp at that moment. And that was the final missing piece, at least for me at that moment. Like, how do you actually determine if the breakout will be successful or not? Right now it's harder, but back in the day it was working like a charm, and I would say with way better consistency. But essentially, like, you analyze the spot book, the futures book, and if you see on a spot around like the breakout price, for example, there is a huge limit order, usually at at a round price, or maybe even some sort of huge limit order from other market participant who left it there, maybe not even looking, like some whales, for example. But if you see activity, somebody actively trying to take that volume and increase in the order flow intensity, that's usually a good sign, for trying to take the breakout, like, as a scalper. So you enter with a really short stop loss, and if it's a true move, like the price won't even reach your stop loss, for example. So like what I started with was the dom scalping, and I think it's one of the best ways to learn about trading, even up to this date, in my opinion, just because like you really see what's happening behind the charts, behind the candles. You see the activity on the order book, you see the order flow, you see the footprint, and it gives you a bit more data, to make a decision.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think, you mentioned the technical analysis. It kind of gives you a logical framework and if and statements. But I think you really need some form of volume analysis or being able to read the tape to combine both of them. I think it's very powerful to be able to combine both of them in your trading.
Yes, I agree with this as well. Like, there is no how to say, like, blueprint for technical analysis. That, yes, like, like as they put a lot of information online. What you see about technical analysis, like as well the general patterns. The price move down, starts consolidating, good odds for, or like even as it says there on those spreadsheets or cheat sheets, if you've seen the technical analysis cheat sheets,
Yeah,
the price will go down essentially. Like from the perspective, it actually might, like just you have to find the moment for an entry, but at the same time it's just
exactly.
like a matter of showing you that this zone of interest is cooking right now. And essentially I like all consolidations, I refer to them as the place your bets time. And the moment of breakout is like
Absolutely.
all bets placed.
Yeah,
Let's go.
absolutely. That's what I think about consolidation too, is like a spring, right? The market works like a spring. So you're in balance, you have your balance, and then you're in balance. And while you're in consolidation, that spring is compressing, right? The longer you stay in a tight range, you're compressing that spring. And it's like when you release it, all that kind of the kinetic energy basically disperses. So the longer
Yes.
you stay in a consolidation, the more meaningful that range is, right?
Yep.
And that's how
That's
I look at it.
100% true.
The spring analogy works really well for me. But yeah, you hit it right on the dot. I think DOMs, like a lot of people should look into, using the DOM. But I know there's a learning curve there, right? Especially with crypto, a lot of people complain about, it's kind of there's a steep learning curve involved with using the DOM or reading the tape. So what kind of suggestion would you give? I personally think it's just you need to just spend the time. There's no way around it. There's no shortcuts here.
Yeah, I think it's the correct approach, and I would probably even like to separate it, like from like two different points of view. Like some people want to trade crypto or stocks and spend 1 hour a day for it. That's more for long term, like investing in crypto. It's pretty hard, especially to invest, like having a lot of scam coins. But for stocks, it actually might work. Um, at the same time, if you wanna be a trader, I think the whole idea of being a trader kind of considers you spending a lot of time in front of your computer, looking for different scenarios, trading them and actively trading them. So like intraday, um, like 4 6 hours a day maybe, and not everybody can afford that. Some people have jobs, and me, for example, I could imagine after working regular 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever, become exhausted and you kind of want to do something of your own. So for this reason, it might not be for everybody. And probably if people the maximum can allocate about a couple of hours a day, in this case it might be worth doing some more like mid-term, long-term, like investing or even trading, like swing trading, positional trading. But actual trading for me, it's intraday, where you actually like spend a lot of time to it. And at the same time, like the best experience comes from practice. So if you want to get good at it, obviously have to allocate. I would say you have to allocate at least a year, until you become consistently good. And like current market is really heavy. It's I would say really hard to trade, especially for beginners. Back
Absolutely. I agree with you
back in the day,
100%.
a lot like back in 2020, a lot of people just jumped in crypto, and like you could be net long overall, like if you jump like
Right.
early in 2020, and like it's as simple as it gets. You just hold, you can have long positions and like major pumps like 1000, 5000%,
Yep.
like the Chizi, Matic, I remember as well. That's the few ones which come straight to my mind, but as well obviously Link, VeChain, Anchor. I remember BTT, BTS, Hot. I mean, we just named them, and Solana pump as well in the end of the bull market. Just by staying exposed, you get yourself like the exposure you need at the time. A lot of in trading comes as well from doing the right things at the right time. Like in 2020, you can just be max long
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
essentially and be good about it. Right now, you have to be a bit more smart.
I mean, it's really I think for right now for a beginner, I would just I mean, yeah, you have to get in the mud, um, to really start understanding how to trade. But the environment is so different, right? I mean, and then the strategies that are involved in trading. I mean, there was a false sense of security with people who started trading, quote unquote, during the bull market when everything was up only, and then they ended up losing money because they really didn't learn how to trade. You know what I mean? And it was a completely different environment to begin with.
Yes, it gave a lot of like fake PNL. I would say like not
Exactly.
actually
Right.
kind of like it was real PNL. Like you actually have this money in your crypto on your exchange in your wallet, maybe even withdrawn some. But at the same time, if you haven't got this main point of like you have to actually take your profits and be wise about risks, um, a lot of people just lost everything, or like majority of it. Like if you just still holding your bags, from 2020, at best you're break even. Maybe as well, like, not all of them, obviously. If you bought, let's say, Doge before the main pump, you still would be in profit. It's not already like if you, I think it was like 60 or 100,000% pump from the bottom, like completely. You still would be up like a few X's. But obviously, it's a matter of like taking profits on top.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, would you agree with me? Like when there's a statement saying that, 95% of people should not be trading because it's extremely difficult and competitive. And the way it's being made seen, with all this TikTok content, YouTube Shorts, and all this garbage on Twitter as well is, how easy it is, just support resistance, trade support and resistance. And I think some of these people that are getting into trading just because of leverage would do a lot better just buying spot bags and even swing trading on really low leverage. And what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, I agree as well. Like I would say, trading is not for everyone, and the best way to find out if it's for you or not is just to try. But at the same time, it's a lot of people start trading just by paying for VIP groups, and just not developing their own understanding of like or their own ability to find the scenarios what to trade. Essentially, simple as guess. You just have to find something where you think it will be viable, why I'm entering here, where I will be closing, for example, and like those type of questions. And I would say like there are some people who able to do their independent research, like showing some critical thinking, and for those people, I would say trading will be a really good place. But people who can't do their research, I would say it's probably best, just to maybe do something long term as well, as you mentioned, like swing trading, just buying some spot bags. And I still believe that, like, I still believe if somebody truly wants to become a good trader and they dedicate the time and effort, there are really good chances of becoming one. But there are still like I've seen people, like doing their best, for a few years and still not making money. But those I would say are more rare than people who actually put in the efforts, put in the hours essentially, and become good at it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's something to be said like for some natural ability when it comes to trading as well, like the critical thinking and the ability to control your emotions and how you think about wins and losses, right? I mean, me personally, a lot of people in trading come from like a gambling background or people who are very risk averse. My background is very, mathematics and systematic heavy in terms of like being a mechanical engineer. I've actually personally never been to a casino. So, but a lot of people, I think the way you think about wins and losses, that really impacts the way you trade. And it's like you said, some people do end up spending a lot of time and they're still not profitable. But like I agree with you 100% though. Like if you spend the time and you're passionate about it and you put in the work and you can manage your risk enough so that you survive those initial, year or two where you're gonna lose a bunch of money. If you can contain that risk, then I think in the long run you can definitely be profitable.
Yes, and I also think it's coming from the mindset, as a lot of people like jump into trading with expectations of quick profits. So they take excess leverage and they kind of like, oh, I did it for a couple of months, it didn't work. Ah, trading doesn't work. It's definitely not for those people. At the same time, like there are people who are actually genuinely looking to learn. And I also think, some people might be doing the things right, having the right mentality, like psychology. It's quite important, in trading, how you react once you draw down, for example, how you profit. Um, at the same time, it's also a matter of applying the right strategy, because like theoretically there could be, and I imagine in reality there are also some traders who kind of have the right foundation for being a profitable trader. They just using the wrong strategy. Like it's really hard to to gauge those, because it's coming like purely individual scenarios. But at the same time, like statistically speaking, I'm assuming a lot of traders who are not profitable, they're still doing the right things, just not the right strategy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like that's such an important point that you touched on is understanding what you're good at, but also being able to to sit out of the market when you know your strategy is not working, or being able to adapt, right? Be flexible if you want to stay in the arena, because it could be that you have a profitable strategy, but it only works during a certain market environment, right? And so being able to even sit on your hands, they say, okay, there's three moves in the market. You go either long, short, or you sit on your hands. And I think a lot of people struggle with that third one, is being able to sit on your hands when it's necessary.
That's true. And even you just yesterday posted the 10 mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Like it is as simple as like, like I learned a lot about trading. I have tried all the different strategies and I've been like exposed, like from time perspective to trading and financial markets for a lot. Um, and at certain moment you come back to those simple things, like simple things that matter, like as simple as being like being able to cut your loss when you have to, being able to see it when you have to. And it's coming not like a personal training. Like there's one good sentence, or good quote I still remember from, I think it was, I heard from first time from Robert James. um, you don't necessarily have to be making smart moves in trading. You just have to try to avoid doing dumb stuff. And sometimes over trading can be considered like dumb, not really smart. Like if you don't have an edge there, just sit, wait for your correct scenarios. And I'm still sometimes doing those mistakes, trying to outsmart the market, and thinking, yeah, this is a good scenario, but it's not something what I usually trade, just by trying to different things. um and most of the times, some random, like I would say non-strategic entries end up chaotic, because you can sometimes, like like worst thing what could happen, I think, to a trader, it's when they apply the wrong strategy, but they're not being punished for it. From the perspective, you could do completely wrong stuff, let's say, but it's essentially like as a coin flip. Maybe you just somehow get exposure, to the right direction of the market, and you being rewarded for it. It establishes, the wrong neuron connections in your brain that yes, I'm doing something wrong, but I'm being paid for it. Just because in the end you will still lose money, because if the system is not correct, like there is no long-term uh, sustainability to it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, that's probably the worst thing that can happen to a trader, right? Is making money while doing the wrong things, because in the
You'll give
long
it
run,
away.
that's probably going to
It,
bite
it,
you.
it's not bad to make money, obviously, but at the same
Yeah,
time, worst thing would happen, you like, you place a few small trades, they play well, you add up more, you use leverage, and you give away
exactly.
everything.
You lever up and you use that same strategy. It comes to bite you in the ass. I think that's the thing too, is like a lot of people are profitable. I mean, we're profitable, right? I mean, in the environment that we were in, there were, people were making tons of money. But it came back to bite them in the ass, right? Because, they started levering up and started, going for the same strategies, and they were not working anymore. And so I think this goes into another good segue is, you were talking about, something that, you struggle with still sometimes. And that's the best thing about the market that I find really fascinating, is it's always a battle against yourself, right? Whatever you open a position, it's a battle. And so what's something that you struggle with, when you first started trading, and how has that changed for you now? Like, what things do you still struggle with, and how do you kind of manage that now versus how it was before?
One of the main things I'd probably say there would be like having patience, and coming like as an issue, like which I was personally struggling with, and I assume a lot of traders also do, is being impatient. As well, like that evolves into many mistakes, like as well, like not sitting when you have to just do nothing, for example, being impatient, and also aping into tops, like shorting the bottoms, just because like it's like impatience combined with FOMO. It's like a really dangerous combo. It's a really spicy mix, I would say. And that's probably one of the first challenges I got in, like I faced myself, just being impatient. And as well, specifically back in 2020 bull market, like you see like coins pumping 1,000%, 2,000%, and you're like, I missed that, like no, we're still going up, and you just open a position somewhere at the top, for example. Like, it was never a problem for me because I was mainly scalping, but it was a matter of as well still like giving away a few stop losses, for example, there, and just giving away some money for free. But like about the impatience, the main thing you can do is just like be exposed to the markets and try to accept it as a problem, and try to understand that, like if you missed, for example, a good trade, like a good pump, there still will be more to it. They're always, even like right now in the middle, I would say, or maybe end of like whatever it is right now, like in a bear market, there's still something that pumps 500%, and you can still find those pumps. And if you haven't been able to grab something that's pumping now, you will be hopefully able to grab it next time, or even just trying to find the top, for example, and short it. That's what I'm doing right now, because I'm not really good when it comes to momentum trading as well. I would say at this point, I'm more of a mean reversion trader. Um, and as well, I think a lot of people at first, like as their issue, the problem they could see, it's well, it's finding what works the best for them, for their psychotype. Some people actually really good at trading breakouts, momentums. Some people better trading mean reversion, for example. Some people better doing some yield farming potential, not touching trading from this perspective. It depends on individual risk tolerance and psychotype. And I would say really important at first is to understand yourself as a person. Trading actually like developed a lot of good trades in me, and as well, like, at least the patience. Like I'm really patient right now when I have to, just because like I was doing trading for some time, for a long time now, and it's something what comes like if you do trading for a long time. I think every trader is patient. They know how to
You have
control
to be.
emotions. You have to
Absolutely.
be.
I think that's the best thing. You hit it on the dot too. Is the best thing about trading is if you're really mindful and someone who reflects and learns from their trading, it really teaches you a lot about yourself too, right? In terms of how you view certain things and how you need to adapt in order to be successful when you trade.
It is 100%.
And so the other thing that I wanted to ask you, I mean, you were talking about some things that you struggled with, and what are some things that you feel is your strength when it comes to trading? Like something just comes to you naturally, or something that you've built up over time.
Um, I would say it's probably adaptability. Like I'm pretty quick at adapting new things and adapting to the market conditions. And or maybe as at the same time, it's also a question like like I still need a bit probably more time and more sample data to actually test it, because adaptability it's something what like you can. It's hard to say I'm adaptable, just from testing it for a week. But I just happen to be doing the right things at the right time. So there's a lot of luck involved as well, because I started as a dom scalper and I mainly was trading breakouts. You just find some consolidation and you sit and watch like 5 6 of potential scenarios till they come to the range, and if there will be a breakout. And already like in 2021 I started doing pairs trading, essentially min reversion trading, which was a really good shift because like essentially the market was dying. It was the end of bull run, so there was like breakout trading possibly, if you go only short at that point was working, but min reversion was really good. Min reversion was really good, and right now I'm still back as well at this mix, mainly min reversion, but at the same time sometimes a bit of momentum trading. And um, and yeah, that's quite important to me as well, as I mentioned, to find your personal style. But at the
Absolutely, and
same
I think
time
it
as
goes with
well,
your.
oh yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
but yeah, as well, just haven't much to add there. Just want to say as well, out of strengths, I think a lot of traders, just right now can relate in terms of as well, like being patient, having some critical thinking, and as well independent research, like being able to do independent research and think for yourself. I think is really important for surviving and trading. And yeah, I would say like my like strength skill set is pretty similar across traders who survived up to this date. Maybe a few extra ones, but if you combine like as an average, like as a general kind of like like good trader combo, or like I was experienced trader, because it's also like it's all biased. Experienced trader combo, like there will be pretty good mix of those necessary skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, some of the things that you do. We'll get into that as well, like how your trading works currently and what your edges. But one thing I wanted to ask you is there's this conversation about being highly specialized and having like a nuanced understanding of a few assets. So some people will only trade Bitcoin or ETH and have a very nuanced understanding of the price action, the volume, the order flow, all of those things. Some people are a huge proponent of just having two or three assets that you trade versus others that are open to deploying a strategy on any ticker. they don't really care about what they're trading as long as they see what they want to see. And what's your thought process on that? Like, can you do both, or is one better than the other? What are your views on that?
I I th- I think there are no like right or wrong here. It's ultimately for like each person individually. Because for example, like there are a lot of traders from energy sector. Like energy sector is highly dependent on supply and demand balance. Like when you trade oil, when you trade gas, for example, like coming off like from commodities aside from crypto. And there are some people who've been trading oil, gas, maybe even a bit of gold, out of macro, for the past 20 years, 30 years. They've been doing it for forever, and they kind of know the markets from inside out. They know everything about it. Even maybe technical background, how the oil is extracted, and for example, why that company might be outperforming, just with new technology. I'm assuming I'm not an energy trader myself, but for crypto, you have to stay versatile at the same time. Still, I, for example, haven't done much, like which can be considered as like crypto trading or like crypto. Yeah, it's still crypto trading, like yield farming, for example, like which was really popular in 2020, 2021. Or airdrop farming, which is not technical trading, but it's still like you exposed to the crypto market. And if you want to trade perpetual futures in cryptocurrency, um, I think you have to have some sort of agility in terms of being actually able to analyze a scenario. And I still have to, I think, crypto market, it's interesting in terms of, majority of the coins are highly correlated to Bitcoin. So during the best of times, you can trade only Bitcoin, when it's on the move, because right now Bitcoin is pretty much dead in terms of volatility and volumes. So it's better to trade alts. But if Bitcoin will dump 2-3% or pump 2-3% or even above, majority of the market will follow it. And I think everybody have to find something for themselves. And I can hardly imagine a trader who says like, yeah, I trade only EGLD, QNT, and like SFP coins. Like if you're an altcoin trader, you trade what's moving now, and they all move pretty similarly in terms of like an idea behind there, somebody like kind of pushing the price, and you just have to work around it. But I personally was trading only Bitcoin for quite some time. So you have to have, like in crypto, I think you have to have a mix of both. But don't overdo it, like you both trying to trade perpetuals at the same time, doing some airdrop farming, also like NFT trading. I think you'll just have too much to manage, and you'll just build not as efficient, once you do the specialization thing, specialty.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's very individual in nature, but also what we've been talking about throughout this is being able to be adaptable. I mean, currently trading Bitcoin is, it's not too exciting, right? So like being able to adapt and going over to some of these alts and catching some of these moves or fading some of these moves, could be very profitable. It's something that you've been doing. So let's jump into that actually. Which indicators, tools, and platforms do you use, and what have you been trading? What does your edge look like? I mean, I'll call you Mr. Baker because you get to the bread, and you're you're basically the knife catcher, right? So I think it would be interesting to share some of your insights on that, and talk a little bit about what tools you use, what platforms you use, and what you look for when you're trading right now.
Yeah, I'll probably cover up as well a bit about my like trading at the moment, like what do I do, and then come to the tools I use, because the tools I use are just like complementary addition to like which support me in my execution and analysis, and as well finding trading scenarios. And at the moment, I mainly trade knives, pullbacks, mean reversion, as well, like, as I've been as I started pairs trading back in 2021 and been doing it for some time, which gave me like actually like I essentially found myself like as a trader in pairs trading, just because I was doing breakouts like in DOM scalping in 2021, which was a good thing to do at the time. It was just like I would say probably the most versatile strategy at that moment. But I found myself like as what I comfortable with, like when taking risks, when taking entries, it's taking those mean reversions. Essentially, like, sometimes when you see a coin pumping out of narrow 5%, they're pretty good odds if you can get yourself like if you're pretty quick at finding those scenarios and pretty quick at entries, you can get yourself yourself essentially at the top of the wick, somewhere around there, depending on the slippage of the liquidity and how quick you enter. But you're able to grab those really good scenarios from the risk reward perspective. Because a lot of those pumps, they're a candle, like 1 minute candle with volumes out of nowhere, 5-10%, really good chance of it's just mean reverting, or at least doing some sort of pullback till the middle of a candle, for example, or maybe till like the support resistance zone, just as a retest to see if there's any other market participants looking to enter. And I prefer to ride those. And also, I grab the top of Cyber, Hi-Fi, and a few other coins. Like I also grab the pump of AMB, grab the pump of Tier B at the same time, which are actually like I took as a breakout trade, and I'm just holding runners. Essentially, like I is one of my main risk management practices. I DCA out of the position, so I don't close. Like all in one take profit. I usually close as the move goes in my direction. Like for example, if I'm long, I will close some like at 2% impulse, at 5%, at 10%. Maybe it starts reversing. I'm gonna close a bit more. I'm gonna put my stop loss already at that moment, somewhere like halfway through. And essentially, like you never know how far something can pump. But I managed to grab a few good pumps just like having a runner. And even if it's 10% of your remaining volume on 100% pump, essentially you grab 10% profit of your total position if you like kind of adjust it, to actual dollar value in PNL. And
That's really interesting. Like, so do you? Sorry to
mhm.
cut you off. But do you
Yeah, go on.
basically have you? Is it discretionary for you where you're watching the chart and looking for weakness before you take some profit or take some of your position off, or do you have like a set number? Like, okay, if I get 2% out of this, I'm closing out this much of my position, and so forth.
It's all discretionary as I'm essentially
Yeah.
actively managing my positions throughout the day.
Right.
I still have some sort of like understanding where I want to see the price. It's not just like I'm gonna enter here and see how it goes. I have an idea that potential like if I'm taking, let's say, a short knife, now I might want to bring and close like a solid amount, like at the retest, like the support resistance zone, and see if there's any reaction. But at the same time, I reevaluate the position all the time, like essentially, like just looking at it, seeing how it goes. Because sometimes you see, well, again, volumes out of nowhere, and then they just die, and they never back, for the next couple of days. You can just ride this short. Like I have one of those. I think on like XTZ, there was a as well like 5% candle, and I'm just riding already like 7% short on it as well. Not full volume, obviously, as I close down as the position goes in my direction. But I'm just riding this, and I'll probably close out as soon as I see the first signs of reversal, like fully close out the position.
I think that's such a good point because so this is something I struggled with earlier on when I started trading is not being able to close that. Like I would round trip my entire position. You know what I mean? Instead of, I think Trader Dante points towards this too. He calls it the first trouble area, right? As soon as you start seeing that the position, there's weakness, you start closing out some of your position instead of waiting for it to completely retrace against you.
Yes, it's really important, and also it comes like from the perspective, like sometimes you can see a 5% pump with volumes out of nowhere is usually like one of my favorite scenarios in crypto. Um, you enter short, it goes your direction, and it might do another 10% with volumes out of another again. So why DCAing out is important in my opinion. Like, it's a pretty debatable story about like some people say you have to like do like one entry or like few entries, and one take profit. I think that in crypto DCAing out is the way because like it's unpredictable, it's really volatile sometimes, in special alts, especially liquid alts. Um, and also it comes from the point like you enter some volume, you close out, you take some profits, and even if you were to leave the position because it goes against you, you already took some cash, which essentially like if you leaving, let's say, at break even point, or even in a loss, you kind of covered a bit of your like stop loss, and also you have less volume, so the stop loss is not as high as it used to be. So like sometimes you can have an entry, you took some profits, it quickly goes against you live in a loss, but your actual like PNL is break even, or maybe even like 0.5% profit, let's say 1% profit. Like maybe if you were to close like 1 TP, you were like to grab 3-5% move. But in the long term, it will pay off you more because you never know. Like this might be reverted quickly. This might, keep on pumping. And just like if you take like 100 trades, they all will be different. But DCA out will kind of like give you this long-term sustainability with your trading.
Yeah, so I mean, we can go a couple of different ways with this conversation, just with stop losses alone, right? There's so many different kind of perspectives on using stop loss, not using stop loss, trailing the stop loss, having it at break even, or having it at at some form of percentage of loss. So what's your thought process on that? Some people don't even
I
use
think
a
like
stop loss. Some people think that you shouldn't. I mean, obviously, I think anyone who's starting to trade should not go down that path. But yeah, what's your
yes.
thought process on that?
Yes, I think if you're a beginner, like stop loss is your best friend, just because it removes that friction from like having to force yourself. Because sometimes it's hard, like classic mistake of a beginner trader is like, oh, the price will pull back now, or the price will go back now, or it will revert now, and they close at the bottom usually. I also had this
Yeah,
mistake as well,
absolutely. How
many
about
times as
yeah,
well.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a
And
it's a natural progression. You have to go through that to
yeah, you
learn.
have to pay for the education, so you kind of yes, okay, next time I'm not moving on stop loss because yeah, like sometimes it's better to stop out, just like even like if it's a like stop loss like as an actual, like you place it through exchange, or even if it's like something like soft stop loss where you have it in your head and you will be leaving. Like at the same time, those hard stop losses which you place on the exchange side are really good for beginner traders because again removes the friction, and also like the main point why people say stop loss don't have to be used is because of the volume. Like if you let's say like actual positioned like $1 million in some altcoin, like your stop loss will be like massive. Your stop loss will cause wicks and that stop loss will cause those moments what I personally trade. It will cause that knife where you have to like grab a trade for a mini reversion because it's price insensitive buying or selling.
Right.
um and like this idea of like you don't have to use stop losses coming from like already like managing a lot of capital, and crypto is illiquid, and at the same time like if you have a position like anywhere already close to mid six figures, stop loss will do more harm for you because it's like you'll be eaten alive. You'll substantially increase your loss from that. And for this reason, a lot of like traders who already manage a lot of capital, they use those soft stop losses where you kind of understand, okay, like right now it's going against me, so I have to start offloading my position, and I usually do it, in small portions, um, and essentially you just like DCA out with the stop loss. But at the same time,
Yeah,
like a
no.
lot of people, like it's a problem not for many people in this market. And those who have this problem where they can't put a simple stop loss, they already know how to work around it generally. Or I mean, they will
Yeah.
figure it out, just by paying the education fees into the market.
Yeah, exactly. Once you pay the tuition, you learn pretty quickly.
It
I
is,
think
and I think in crypto, yes, it's still quite important to use stop losses, even if you're like having at least some sort of like invalidation zone where you just leave.
right. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And so the other thing I'm curious about is, when you're scalping, what's your sweet spot when it comes to leverage? What kind of leverage are you trading?
I'm personally not trading high leverage. Like I have the slider opened, so I can, for example, if I would need to, I can use more leverage. But at the same time, I have quite sizable margin, so rarely I enter like like on altcoin specifically. Rarely I enter more than 2x leverage. Most of the times, even like specifically if I'm shorting a pump, like for example like cyber hi-fi, I will place my asks till that moment that if I will grab the last point, like like the last ask, I will be better like 1x leverage, maybe one and a half or something. So just because if it keep on going against me, sometimes like what is quite common in crypto, you try to short the pump, like with 10x leverage or maybe even 20x leverage, and it just does this 5 extra percent week, it liquidates you, and that's the moment when the market will mean revert, when the price will start pulling back as
Absolutely.
soon as it will clear out. So you don't want to end up in that position where you being cleared out from the market. You want to enter where majority will be cleared out.
Absolutely, and I
And
think that's where patience comes in too. Like a lot of people jump the gun. With those. And like I'm gonna be honest with you, like anyone that's listening in, like knife catching is no joke, man. Like it's an art. You really need to pay. You need to be careful with knife catching. Like you can lose money in a hurry if you're not careful.
yes, it's a really interesting strategy. And when I first started, learning about scalping, because essentially, like knife catching is type of scalping, one form at least. Depending as well, it depends, but most of the times, like if you do it intraday, it's scalping. So it have first of all, it have the liquidity limitations, which is actually pretty good for beginner traders, just as well. In terms of like you won't push $1 million in a knife, or rarely if it's not like some like if it's
Yeah,
a knife on a daily time frame, like like again like the tops of the pumps, you can push some volume there. Um, but still as well, like for major, like for smaller knives, intraday knives, there's like a limit of liquidity. Like if it's a pretty liquid coin and you're quite lucky with, like I usually enter like, how to say, counter flow. So I'm not entering on the reversal point, I'm entering just like eating those liquidations, and my orders essentially they kind of absorb those
interesting.
liquidations and stop
Yeah,
losses. So just I can push a bit more volume, because like if you do market entry, it's hard to catch a knife. Say depending on the coin, sometimes you
yeah,
can't push more than 50 grand there. 100
right,
grand sometimes is the limit. If you absorb those liquidations, you kind of expose yourself to a bit more risk, just because the move might not be over.
right.
Um, but at the same time, it lets you push more volume if you're quite confident it's a reversal point. And as well, with my story of knife catching, I would say it's something what I came to naturally, just as well, like just by developing as a trader and learning new different things. At first, I was looking like at other traders doing knife catching, and I'm like, damn, that's cool, but I would never do such thing. I don't want. Like, to me, it looks like dangerous. Looked at least at that point. Right now, I just started doing it because it just fits to my like trading style, and as well, it comes out like at first I started as a breakout trader, momentum essentially, and then I switched to mini reversion. And in pairs trading as well, a lot of my trades they were involving some sort of knives, like where you take that, maybe not like the top, or the bottom where you like enter, like is impressive, but you said like you catch those like moments of reversal, those candles of reversal. And I realized at some moment that maybe I don't have to have like a hedged leg, and just be taking like this directional exposure instead of like being
Absolutely.
hedged.
I think one thing about knife catching, it's so satisfying to be able to get those pixel perfect entries. Like the satisfaction is on a different level. Like, I can't
It
describe it.
is.
Like, it's so
It is.
satisfying.
And as well, a lot of satisfaction comes from like, yeah, first of all, like if you're able to catch a good knife, like usually you see the confirmation that you entered at the right time.
It's pretty quick, right? The feedback
It's
mechanism is really fast.
Yes, and you
Like
see
you
your
look, you
PNL
find out
like
pretty quick.
quickly printing, and sometimes like it does like really impressive, pullbacks, really impressive like moves, counter moves where you enter like at the right time. And also, I wanted to say something I also thought, but yeah, it's just an art form.
It
Um,
definitely is. You know, one thing I was gonna ask you is, it sounds a little autistic, but I don't know if you do this too. Is listening to the tape, like the flow of the market, and listening to the orders come in, and the flow at which they come in. Do you do that?
like actually listening, having like some sort of like app for like voice overing them, or just like watching it.
No, like for Agger, you can have like sounds for the tape, like
Oh
as
no,
that
actually,
order to come.
I don't do that. I remember a VC shared, Wars Contrarian shared a script with me. Um, I think Liquidity Goblin gave it to him, and he shared a script which you connect to an exchange, and it's like the coin, and you can put in your text what you want to say. Like for example, if there's a big order or like massive order coming through, like depending on certain conditions. And I played around with it just for fun. It was fun thing because I put like when they're dumping, it's like or when they're pumping, it's like exit liquidity have arrived, and
Yeah.
on a dump, like dear God save, dear Lord save us, they're dumping. But I don't listen to it. I watch like at the same time. Like I'm
You
using
watch.
like I
Yeah.
used to be trading with Scalp, and it have this like order flow as like it's bubbles. You can see actual orders going through, and in Silica also have the the tape. with
Right.
orders, in dollar value, and you can see like gauge by the speed. Like it's as simple as just looking how quickly orders are moving.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
sometimes you open a coin and there's like order 5-second delay, another order $50,
Yep. Yep.
and okay, this is illiquid. This is liquid, but
Yeah,
sometimes you see
absolutely.
like tape just going like hundreds of orders, hundreds of ticks, in a second, or like maybe thousands of them in a minute. And that's when like, yeah, that's volatile enough. There's enough liquidity and something already, you can be actively trading.
Yeah, tape is beautiful, man. It really like paints a picture. If you know what to look for in like the cadence and everything, like I mean, it sounds really autistic, but I have the Agger running sometimes, and it actually like there's sounds for as the trades are coming in for the bigger orders and stuff. I was actually joking. I was talking to someone. They were like, I actually listen to that as music when I'm at the gym. They just have like the Agger tape running.
Music to my
Yeah,
ears.
Agger tape music to my
No,
ears.
that's trader literally by soul, not just by like by the definition, just by the nature. That's a trader. You know him
Yeah,
right there.
absolutely.
You know those trend, like what song are you listening to? Stopping random people and, and just having the order flow in your headphones.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I guess we can. Did you want to show? Did you want to share your screen and show, any tools or platforms that you use?
Yes, I haven't actually answered the question. Yeah, I started talking about my trading in terms of like what do I do, and just to find those trades, I have to use software. And for my execution, I mainly use either Scalp or in Silicon. And right now, it's more in Silicon. Really nice execution terminal, super quick, super nice. So big shout out to the team. Also, big shout out to the Scalp team at the same time as well. That's something what I started from, and amazing tool. Like good execution terminals, actually good. And for analytics, I mainly use Spread Fighter, development of my own as well, our team, developing software that will satisfy my own criteria, like like what I'm looking for, and will help me navigate in this market. I also use Coinalyze and Velo just for a bigger picture. Mainly Coinalyze, just because it have smaller altcoins as well that have aggregated data. But I think it's only 100 tickers now, and most of the times you need to play those low capitalization altcoins which are not there. So Coinalyze is probably like one of the things I'm actively using for bigger picture. Obviously, there's all the trading view for charting, but most of the times I'm just looking like for intraday trading scenarios. I'm using Spread Fighter. You can see like one of the trades I took just recently was the hot. Woke up today and it's printing. It was actually long. It was positional long. I as well shared it into the Discord for the Spread Fighter as well a while back, somewhere around here. It collected a few of those liquidations, and when collecting those pretty rapidly as well, even above, like we don't detect any anymore. But the liquidation map is juicy here, a really really powerful tool, and you can see as well like this price action, for example, around this zone. And the main thing what we're working as well at the moment is just adding, like you don't actually know where the lines were placed. Those actually fresh, I think, from from this zone. So around here, I placed them, and it collected the bottom first on the Bitcoin dump, and then it reversed into how much pump from top to bottom? 25%, like 30% almost. Pretty good trade, and obviously have our proprietary development here, manipulation monitor, which acts like as a highlighter when there's activity. You can see that this was pretty active moment overall through its pump, and right now volumes decreased, so essentially there's way less activity, and it acts as a scanner where I pretty much search for what's moving now. Like, I always have it open. You can see through volume activity. For example, there's like clay having some sort of spikes. If volume had a smaller manipulation before, there's some volume manipulation in this zone with open interest rising. There's as well some sort of smaller manipulation after the drop, essentially. I mean, you can see it gives you a bit bigger picture, and I can still see that there's a lot of liquidations around this zone above. So potential positioning yourself for some sort of continuation, maybe by grabbing a knife when it will dump here. But I'm probably already going too much into the trading analysis. But that's how I look at it at least. I'm just constantly looking at Spread Fighter, I have liquidation tape here, seeing what coins had liquidations previously, and Clay is actually also showing here. I think this was the zone. We can draw the line. Yeah, that was the area of the liquidation,
That's
$1,000.
beautiful. Yeah, just to add my 2 cents to it. I mean, I've tested Spread Fighter, and the manipulation monitor is really cool. And being able, the way it aggregates information, because before I used to, I mean, I still use Trading Light, but just scanning the coins and then looking at, obviously open interest and a bunch of different factors. Like this, basically, look at the manipulation monitor and looking at some of these coins. The way it's aggregating information really cuts down on time. And so I think that's really unique and extremely useful. One thing I wanted to ask you, I know you were planning on incorporating some kind of a TWAP indicator. Is that still in the works, or is that being incorporated
Uh,
anytime soon?
a lot of TWAPs are being detected by the volume manipulation detector at the moment. Like we have like as well, I would say, like a draft of a script what detects the TWAP. At the same time, they get tricky. Right now, even like for example in Silica, you can place TWAP and you can add some chaos to it. Like your orders won't be each
Yes,
minute,
yes.
like for this volume. So it got a bit more tricky. At the same time, we probably might just do it. Why not? Let's look at this action in live. Collecting the liquidation. There are some liquidations went through as well around this zone. Probably some more above there. Also interesting thing about Binance, it's showing only last liquidation in a second. So we won't see all 27K, and it's also obviously the model estimation. But at the same time, you can see as well, like we open it here with the volume manipulations going on. We see the liquidations here, potentially, taking some sort of continuation here, or maybe even the reversal from here, small pullback, already up to a trader's preference. But I personally like there are not many tools on the market for actual intraday trading. They're like as well Coinalyze and Well are amazing for looking for the bigger picture, but they don't give you this overview when you actually want to know about like each big order, each big spike, each big liquidation. Like those like Aggro Trade, which also does it pretty nicely, but it's a pretty simple tool in general. And we wanted just to create, incorporate our knowledge, what we personally think, like, as a Spread Fighter like team about trading, and like essentially comes down to like simple things like what you have to do trading. Because majority of alts are dead, following Bitcoin with no volumes, but sometimes there are coins like Clay, for example, right now. Somebody is actively sitting here, and there's some trading activity going on. So how do you find it? Like, how do you find those volume spikes? Like you top manipulation span will notify you, and I'm assuming as well the big trades scanner, which is also showing you right now that there's like almost 1 million of volumes in the past 5-minute candle out of big orders going on. So especially for my knife catching style, you want to find those really quick and strong candles, quick impulses, so you can be one of the first to know at least about them, obviously after somebody who caused it, and
Right.
take the trade. So I think there's really no best tool, for intraday trading rather than Spread Fighter. And obviously, my opinion is a bit biased, as being one of the people behind it. But we're doing it for a reason. We're building Spread Fighter for a reason because we think that this market lacks in terms of like those kind of infrastructure, those software that will help that will help professional intraday traders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've tested, I'm actually still using, I mean, currently I'm not really trading all that much, but I've tested Spread Fighter for about 2, 3 months almost. And I really like the way it aggregates information. I think you could just do a scan and really get information in a very quick manner. I personally haven't seen a tool like this where all that information is available to you on that one screen, and the ability to customize it as well is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is just just build your own dashboard essentially. You can even wipe it
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
I have
Exactly. It's really
a
nice.
few other, for example, like watch lists here, like with coins, what I might be watching, um, liquidations with level screener, so we can even check out for those approaching liquidations. I was just recently watching BNB, pretty good action as well in the zone. Um, Probably the reversal to 20, who knows? If no major news, or massive dump that will be pretty bad, to 180 zone, 190. Let's see. Also got the market data here. So you can pretty much see all market in one platform. And at the moment, it's not aggregated. It's only Binance, but I think Binance as an exchange is the most liquid. So for this reason, if something is going on Binance, it's
Okay.
going to be like mirrored on other exchanges. Or if
Right.
something on other exchanges is going to be mirrored on Binance immediately. So like you're not missing out much, and you're trading like the main coins which are traded on Binance. And but we're obviously going to be working on adding more exchanges, adding more tools, and yeah, I mean, Sport Fighter is still in its really early days. You can still see it's beta. It's already like kind of coming closer. Like right now, we have optimized the server side, and even yesterday been working on it on just changing clusters and nodes to improve the speed, redistribute the load. So I mean, there's a lot of work for us, and it's only going to get better.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see the progress and direction that Spreadfighter goes in because, yeah, I was pleased with the testing that I did for sure, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the progress of the platform.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that you enjoyed it. Getting a lot of as well
Absolutely. And
positive
so,
feedbacks as well. It's really like motivating as well. Just by when you do like some sort of platform, you build software and you get positive feedback. Somebody saying, "Hey, yes, this is really nice." And I've been literally a few times, like not even a few, but already quite a lot of times, I'm saying like I'm hearing from people like this is the best platform or one of the best platforms I ever used, and like it's just rewarding, because I put a lot of work and effort,
absolutely, yeah,
in making sure everything goes
I
nicely
can
here,
imagine.
and it's
Right.
really good to see.
Yeah, I can imagine it's really satisfying. I mean, you created the product for a certain group of
Yep.
traders, and getting that feedback from them that they're saying that it's really useful for them. It has to be satisfying. And so, just changing gears
It
a
is
little
indeed.
bit. I
It
mean,
is indeed.
so there's this odd
Yeah, go
question that
on.
everyone likes to ask: is what's your monitor setup? How many monitors do you use?
I actually use, I mean, essentially it's 3 monitors at the moment. And I don't have a standalone PC. I'm using a laptop, quite a powerful one, which I bought as well ages ago. It was the top of the line back in the day, MSI laptop. And it does the great job. So essentially, I have the laptop, I have main monitor where I have, for example, Sport Fighter open, and I also have the another vertical monitor for looking at a few different charts. Twitter, Discord, or when I'm coding, vertical monitor is also really nice.
So you have
So
like your
yeah,
two horizontal stacked and then one vertical on the side. Is that what it is?
yes, yeah, pretty much. As well, it's not like as even like like 227 monitors, for example, or 149-inch monitor. It got like the triangle type of shape, but it's really nice. Like it's something what I personally really enjoying. And at first, I bought the laptop because at that moment I was moving quite a lot, and I thought of having a PC will just kind of like be a bit of a problem. So I decided to buy a good monitor, and also like at that moment, like it acts as an extra monitor. It's portable, and for this reason, still sticking to the setup. Even though I was thinking of buying myself a proper PC, but my laptop, like I don't encounter any like performance issues. Like it's not slow. I got everything what I need. Maybe in the future we'll get myself something else. But I also have even sometimes I have like my MacBook opened right next to it, essentially having like a couple of laptops, and a MacBook acts as an extra monitor. Where I can, for example, have like Twitter open, or like some other chats,
Interesting, interesting.
or even
Yeah.
like opening extra tools.
Yeah,
So
so
that's pretty
there's
much the
that,
setup I
there's
use.
that conversation of there's a conversation of how many monitors is good for a trader, right? Like, oh, I personally think like, two monitors is more than enough, right? I mean, if you have the vertical monitor is good if you're coding or if you have like text that you're reading and stuff, but I think two monitors is more than enough. What's your thought process on that?
I think if you have 227 monitors, you should be perfectly fine.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Right.
like completely overkilling it. Like some like traders use 6 monitors, 8 monitors, which in my opinion is overkill, because you're just getting overloaded with data.
It's just diminishing returns,
Like
right?
it's really
At some
hard.
point, it's just counterproductive.
Yeah, I think like having like, for example, like I really like the setup, and I probably will switch to that like once I get myself a PC. It will be like probably 34 inch monitor, and another like 32 or 34 inch monitor above it. So essentially, like two big monitors, two wide monitors on top of each other. Because right now they're right
That's
next to it,
exactly my setup
right
right
next
now.
to each other.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
I mean,
exactly
I
my
think
setup right now.
it's really nice. It's
It's
really
really
nice
nice.
because you
Yeah,
essentially got huge visibility zone. So yeah,
absolutely. I really like
that's
it.
probably like if you have and you have two monitors. I mean, like what are the inches there?
So I have two widescreens. There's two 34-inch monitors, and they're stacked on top of each other. And then I have a vertical on the side, and that's just for if I have to read some
That's
documents or
perfect.
something. Or yeah, yeah, it works really well. I really like it. I've
No, I
had it
think
for a
that's
couple of
ideal.
months now. And yeah, it's really nice. I like it a lot. Okay, so we covered the monitors, we've covered your trading, we've covered spread fighter. I think one other question I had for you was what flaws, because I know a lot of people probably reach out to you in terms of trading, like, okay, what can I do to improve my trading? What flaws do you see predominantly when it comes to traders, like people who are learning or people that even come to you, like, okay, because I get people reaching out to me every now and again telling me they ran up an account from $1,000 to 30 grand and then basically ran it to zero, right? I get that every now and again. So I'm interested in hearing, what kind of feedback do you get and what flaws do you see predominantly when it comes to traders?
I think it's really important to take profits and not just actual like position take profits, but also like withdraw cash from an exchange or from your broker if you're trading stocks. And like it can be as simple as like yeah, you made like for example 10 grand, just withdraw at least something, go buy yourself a chocolate. Like just like create. I think it creates a really important like neural connections in your brain where like I've done a good job like let's say past week, past month, reward yourself for it just because I think a lot of traders in crypto specifically fall into this category where they made a lot of money, like maybe life changing money, and they not even hopefully run it up to zero, but lost the majority of it just by holding bags, maybe not withdrawing or like keeping it on FTX exchange, let's say.
Yeah,
For this
extremely
reason, I
unfortunate.
think withdrawing and rewarding yourself for good work is really important. I think it's a really healthy practice. And especially if you trade for a living, you obviously have to withdraw to pay your expenses. But if it's something you do, on a side, still withdraw and buy yourself something nice. Other
That's a
flaws,
really good
maybe
point.
again, it's probably coming like to those like basic scenarios, like being impatient, trying to learn, not trying to learn and trying to like as well like essentially like be greedy about it. I think it's really healthy also to I rarely look at my like PNL of my positions. Even sometimes I'm a big fan of like having PNL hidden, just so I won't get attached to the actual number. I'm looking at them like from the perspective of whether a move is correct or not. So I'm not looking at that number minus plus. I think it gets some stress, and it's just something what helps me as well to like to cope intraday. And for this reason, I think a lot of traders need to kind of work not on actual PNL, which is obviously important. But if you want to be a long-term trader and if you're a beginner at least, but to focus on the progress, on the process, like on the process of actually making the right decisions and at least trying to do so. What else?
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, I think, people, you need to be passionate about it, right? You need to look at it as you being an athlete almost, like in a sport. Um, and obviously we all want to make money. That's the reason why we trade. But at the end of the day, if you are passionate about trading as it is and really put in the time and the effort, I think the money comes, right? As long as you're really passionate about it. If you're just in the beginning, like you said, there's a lot of people that get into it just, oh, like I'll make, six figures overnight or something along those lines. And that's the wrong approach. You're not going to make it all in one trade.
Yes, really rarely. And as well, the idea behind like making it all in one trade puts you in a position where you kind of try to do a lot of maybe like high risk moves just to catch that one life changing trade. And that's not how trading works. I mean, it's more like a gambling. Like you go into casino, you put all of your net worth on black in the roulette, and you pray. That's all you do.
Basically. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
like, and for this reason as well, like kind of like if people really want just a bit of gambling, like rather go to a casino or like actually like I'm not encouraging anyone to gamble, but trading like gives you a really good opportunity where you can control some certain actions. Like, you cannot control how the price will move unless you have like millions of dollars where you can actually control how the price moves.
Right,
But
right.
most of the times, you can't control a lot of things. But the only thing what you can control is your actions and also your risk, the risk you're taking. And that's like like kind of perspective on trading that I'm trying to look for as well, encouraging people to look for, as it gives you better odds in the long term if you actually like willing to take those odds, in terms of like if you're actually willing to accept the game and realize the like the power of trading. Like I would say, like, yeah, probably the control of certain actions, at least how much you lose. It's the power of trading, and when you
That's
enter,
so
obviously.
true. That's so true. Like you mentioned, that's such a good point. Is the only thing you can really control is the risk, right? I mean, the probabilities are going to play out the way probabilities are going to play out. Obviously, you
Yeah,
play to improve the odds of you winning, but at the end of the day, the only thing really in control once you get into a trade is the way you're managing your risk.
Pretty much, and as well for this reason, I also like like in Australia we have legalized gambling. We have casinos, not many, but we have as well. Like in many pubs, you can find so-called VIP lounges where you can just play pokies,
Yeah, just go
slot
gamble
machines,
then.
um, and yeah, and sometimes like like I personally actually don't like I played a bit of blackjack, just tiny bit. I think that that's also a game where you can kind of can control your risks. And if I were to play in a casino, I would probably pick blackjack. Or if I'm just like like YOLOing, like why not place a bit of on the roulette? But last time it was like probably a couple of years ago, during the bull market. During the bull
Of
market,
courk.
and be great.
Was that the top
Um,
signal? Was that
but
the
right
top
now as
signal?
well, I'm assuming it actually might have been, at least for me, like that greed which
You
comes as
went
well,
to
and
the
I'm like,
casino.
why not? But sometimes we come in with a few friends, just for a few beers after pub, and they like, let's go pockets, and I'm just watching there. Like I'm never playing pockets. I'm just watching how people lose money because I know that it's pretty much pointless. And I had actually we had one run when my friend made some money in pockets, and it was like pretty okay, nice to watch. But I kind of like don't see like, especially like the slot machines are, it's just like waste of your time and money. They still actually like every game can have some sort of like interesting areas, and like for example, I heard of a strategy even in slot machines where you just like you see it in a casino, let's say, or you see it into those VIP lounges, VIP zones, and you watch somebody losing a lot of money, and you essentially wait till the like like machine gets warmed up, and like machine is programmed to give you some sort of money at the end of the day. So, and some people been abusing the system, as I heard, back in the day. Just like something I found online, and it actually makes sense. But I think right now it's already fixed. It was like some sort of like short-term inefficiency, short-term
Yeah,
inefficiency, and
yeah,
some
yeah.
people actually kind of found it, abused it, and that's as well like interesting perspective, because some people come as NPCs to play poker. Some people come as actual like like having some sort of edge, or at least trying to increase the odds. And that's already like I think those people like would be pretty good in trading in terms of like trying to find those market inefficiencies that provide you with better odds.
Absolutely. And Cream Trader has that, has an entire book on this. It's called Glitch Trading, where you just look for kind of some of these lapses that you can take advantage of, regardless of what it is, right? So I think that's a really phenomenal way and framework to look at trading as well.
I actually haven't seen them, but if you can send me a link, I actually would appreciate. There's so much stuff, and sometimes hard to cover everything. But would
Yeah,
appreciate it
absolutely.
too
No,
from you.
it's a phenomenal book. It's the author's name is David Hale. And so the book's on basically glitch trading, which is looking for opportunities that you can take advantage of. And I think it's a great framework in terms of looking at trading as well. And the one thing, have you read that book, Best Loser Wins, or have you heard about that book?
Nope. I heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Okay, it has a really good quote in there, and it talks about essentially the entire book is very psychological in nature, and it talks about how you deal with losses more than how you celebrate wins. You know what I mean? It's about how you can learn from losses in the market and then incorporate that into how you deal with emotions. And that's essentially the entire book revolves around that subject. But one quote that's really I found really great in that book was, if you want to succeed in an endeavor where 90% are failing, you have two choices. You can either study the large 90% losing group and do the opposite of what they do, or you can replicate what the 10% do. So I found
Oh,
that
that's so
very
smart.
interesting. Yeah, because I mean, 90 if 90% of the people are losing, they have very typical thinking, right? And so you either, try to do the opposite of that, or you try to replicate the what the 10% are doing.
That's pretty much exactly the approach I think many people have to be like kind of thinking like from the perspective like if some people fail, what do they do wrong? If some people are successful, what they're doing right. There's also some sort of still selection bias, and some people can be winning in short term just by luck, and some people can be losing in short term just by luck or being unlucky essentially. But if you take actually some sort of like long term sample size, um, as long as not for example if you look at the daily trading performance from other traders. So like if you take a look at a couple of years of trading performance and people who collect like consistently making money there, there's all to learn from. But as well, it's also interesting about like for beginner traders, there's a lot of like really useful information and really simple and useful information, I'll put it this way, like available online. Like cut your losses, for example. Yeah, like let your winners run. Don't do stupid things. Yeah, don't lever up. um, and people still think that they can somehow be lucky enough to kind of not being affected by those errors. And it takes some time, like essentially it's come down to the fact that you always learn from your own mistakes. It's really hard to learn from somebody else's mistakes, like just because you have like what actually like being kind of um like a remarkable experience about making a mistake is that the emotions that you feel when you make a mistake. And it's not the actual mistake, but it's like you kind of don't want to feel the same way again, like, oh, I made a bad loss just because I did this kind of stupid thing. Um and that like it's leaving a mark on you kind of, so you actually feel this mistake. If somebody's saying, oh guys, I lost like a couple of $1 million by shorting this, you're like, ah, yeah, I'm not gonna do it. And maybe in the next couple of months you accidentally gonna do it just by forgetting this, because like it's easy to forget mistakes which you don't have emotional attachment to.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think, I agree with you in the sense that you can read all the books that you want, right? I mean, some of these things, it's logical. Okay, you cut your losses. You know what I mean? You don't want to add to a losing trade. But until you make that mistake, you need to pay some tuition, right? But the good point about reading some of these books is those ideas kind of are somewhere in your mind while you're trading. And when you make those mistakes, it almost like some of these things click together. So I think
Yes,
it is useful to have that knowledge as well. Obviously, you need to go out and trade, put collateral on the line, lose money. But at the same time, like even putting in some time into some of the literature and reading some of these things and having them sitting somewhere in your brain, I think it meshes really well when you combine it with experience.
that's a really powerful combo. Yes, so like it's essentially a mix of like theory and practice. And because sometimes when you make a mistake like the first time, you might not be really aware why it happened, like whether it was, for example, again in trading, wrong entry, or like maybe kind of short stop loss, let's say, or just maybe you left for you entered in already like kind of from beforehand losing scenario. But when you, for example, read about it before or seen it somewhere before, it kind of, oh yeah, it clicks, and you get this emotional attachment to this mistake, but at the same time it's being like confirmed by the theory which you studied before. So there's obviously this kind of mix. So it's like the learning starts when you obviously decide to start learning, like for example even like from the first book you read, and even like if you haven't made any trades before but you just kind of reading because you want to become a trader. That's when your progress starts, but at the same time it's being like enhanced when you actually do those trades. Especially in
Absolutely.
crypto, the market is open 24/7. It's really aggressive. It's really manipulative, and like if you able to kind of teach yourself how to survive in this market, and not only survive
Mhm.
but to excel. In this case,
Right.
I think you'll be feeling pretty comfortable in other markets which don't have such severe manipulations and such low liquidity. I mean, crypto market is probably one of the hardest markets to trade now.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's always been.
100%. It's always been difficult, but I think right now is, yeah, it's extremely difficult to trade crypto.
And as well, I also wanted to like one quote as well from our founder of Sport Fighter, like Alex. He used to say back in 2021, uh, um, right now you want to make money. You want to learn something later. So essentially, a lot of people come and like, yes, I'm trying to make it to learn something how to do. But back in the day, market like in 2020 and 2021 was so easy. So like you just with having like a basic strategy of like buying the dips could have printed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right now, it's actually, I would say, it's always best to make money now and learn at the same time, let's say. But right now, the market is really hard. So if somebody decides, to like actually learn about trading, not just by trying to like, YOLOing into some coins or just like, following some signals, but actually learn for themselves, like, find their suitable strategy. And it can be a really simple strategy. It can be like, again, breakouts. Breakouts is ultra simple and pretty efficient, but at the same time, when the right times will come, you will be printing. Because right now, market is like overall, like, how to say, giving away
It's hard
less
money.
money. There are
Yeah.
less money in the system now, and when the right times will come, that knowledge which you accumulate now, that will just be enhanced, multiples.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen a lot of people actually shifting to trading equities and, basically running out running away from crypto because of the environment. What's your they take on that? Like why haven't you shifted that strategy? I mean, obviously you're profit, you've been profitable, you're doing your thing, but like would you consider something like that? Like or would you consider trading equities?
Maybe during like if there will be another like crazy bull run like we had in 2020, because even in 2020 I had some like directional like just like spot exposure in stocks. But it's still like my main focus was like it's 80-20 rule. I'm a big fan of Pareto principle, um, and if like it's just worth implementing it into some areas of your life. Um, and I was looking using like the 80-20 principle, in stocks just because having some sort of like kind of less risky exposure to as well like essentially the financial system being broken for some time. And we will obviously have like those peaks, like booming economy, like shrinking economy, like it's a cycle. And right now the market conditions are actually pretty heavy, like if you look at economic wise. Like it's really hard. It's really hard all across whenever you look. Like the stock market been pretty active overall over the past like year, let's say, and it did the rebound back to like almost like S&P, um, back at the top, almost it didn't really high, but at the same time like there's still something always to trade in stocks, and it makes sense that a lot of people leave, because this market, like if you take a look at 2022, that was like really a burning ship, like in it's time to leave. But for me at least, I personally look at it, there's more space, because I still believe there will be some sort of like I don't think this market will die. It might be not easy, um, but at the same time, like when I started trading crypto in 2019, 2020 was when I actively got involved. I looked at it and like, yeah, if I were to buy something in 2018, let's say like anything, pretty much almost anything, it would print. It was so easy for the those who survived the bear market, but now we're in like already experiencing one, and it's not easy. It's not easy. It's just
Yeah,
like buy
absolutely.
and wait few years,
Yeah.
and just print. So for me right now there's way too much space in terms of like the market. It's still really new, it's still being developed, and I'm assuming there will be some sort of inflows the next time when we will have monetary expansion. um,
Hmm.
and that is the moment when you want to have already like the product ready, like the software ready, for example, like as we're doing now. Right now it's the time for building, the time for actually like kind of even learning. I'm trading and trading like actively over the past 6 months when the market got alive, or even a bit longer than that, like actively intraday, because I was like throughout whole 2022 I was rarely manual trading. Yes, was doing just different stuff at that moment, quant fund. um and and yeah, right now it's a good time to learn. I think there's a good opportunity, at least for us, like like just thinking like for a sport fighter as a company. I think if we establish something now, there will be really good times in the future, and we will be able to capitalize on that, while others are scared of going to this market we're building. And yeah, the time will tell.
I think that's the right approach. I mean, you can look at the sentiment on, I mean, obviously Twitter is not that serious, but we can look at the sentiment on Twitter. There's only like 10 people. There's only 10 of us left on Twitter, and it's the same people that you see every day. And you could tell, like, people are just angry and fighting with each other, and it's the same stuff. So it kind of gives you a sense of where we are in the cycle. And I think you bring up a great point. Is in terms of building, right now is the right time to put your resources into learning and building, and using that time for that purpose. And I
Yes, and
think
I also
something you
have
mentioned.
oh
Go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
go on. I'll tell this after, but yeah, go on. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. So no, no problem. What I was going to actually touch upon, and we don't really have to go into the details, is the reason why I actually found you was because of that. You wrote some algo trading, thread that was really great, and it talked about how to get into algo trading. So we can touch on that a little bit, like for a couple minutes, and then kind of shift gears. I want to talk about some other things, and then try to wrap this up because the time has been flying by, and during this conversation, I didn't realize. Um, But basically, you mentioned in 2022 you got into sort of quant trading, algo trading. What was that experience like, and why did you make that shift and then decide to shift back to discretionary trading?
I personally remember that it's quite stressful. Because essentially, like, I started like my main, like, I would say, like, trader pathway started as well from the moment where we formed the spread fighter. Because back in the day I was doing it as well, like as an individual trader, independent trader, just doing scalping. And we all started, like, the spread fighter. It wasn't even in call that way. We didn't have a name. It was just a group, in Discord of us from all across the world, just learning about pairs trading, learning and trading pairs essentially. And we did a lot of research together. We built our own, like, integration scanner to look for the integrated pairs which you trade. It was at first, like, the Discord bot. Then we built our own, like, essentially put it on a server. It started, like, we built our own platform for pairs trading, for discretionary pairs trading. So manual, essentially, like, you've been given signals, you will let them, you enter the position, and you can also put stop losses there. I think pairs trading doesn't consider stop losses, like, for majority of use cases, but when you do it discretionary, um, you have to use it there, at least in crypto, because crypto can pump 5,000%, and you'll just get wrecked. So essentially, it's, like, as a risk management practice, works pretty well and up to certain volume, and you can push a bit more volume pairs. And we've been doing it as well. Start, I would say, like, early 2021, we formed our team. And just, bunch of friends, I would even say, bunch of different traders gathered by one idea. Then we started as a small prop where we've been actually teaching traders. We've been giving them capital to trade, and then we've been giving them infrastructure. Because if you want to trade pairs in crypto, there are no tools. Like, literally, it's not a matter of, like, oh, there's something available but it's bad. Like, literally, there are none. Like, nothing will show you integrated pairs aside from, like, the spread screener we developed, and still up and running. And I'm not even talking about execution of trades, because, in pairs, like, with pairs trading, statistical arbitrage, you usually have one long, one short leg. And the idea, you can have, let's say, minus 50% loss on one position and plus 52% gain on another. So essentially, your profit is 2%, this so-called spread. And how do you calculate those P&Ls? Like, it's all done on the server. Yes, because, like, for example, none of the exchanges will give you this option to combine the P&Ls, like, combine the positions and look at them together collectively. So we have developed, like, the limit orders for pairs, stop losses, take profits for pairs, and it's all was done on the server side. and also even the risk management tools, like the classic prop risk management, like 5% drawdown per day, for example, like 10% total drawdown on an account, and so on and so on. And then we kind of like, I would say, got tired working with people from the perspective, sometimes you share a really interesting pair, to traders. And because it was not like, it was the prop, not like as an actual company, we have office, right? It was just like, online prop, essentially, like friendly prop, I
Right.
would say. Like it was mainly friends and, friends of friends, and like people who just like, somehow heard of us and like, yeah, please teach us. Um, and sometimes you share them a good pair. Like, yeah, these have really, really good odds from inversion, really good, like, interesting position. And you ask them later, did you took it? Like, who took this pair? And they're like, I kind of didn't like it. And obviously, it was a good pair. Like, in most of the cases, if it's something what we actively, show, it's obviously not 100%, but it was really interesting trade to take to get some exposure at least again. And we decided to, just transition. You at that moment, it already was like, the prop was running for about 6 months. We already got solid infrastructure, servers, everything, tools, and we decided just to essentially as evolution of the spread fighter, to turn it into an algo fund and start doing pairs trading automatically, and also developed a bunch of other strategies which helped us to navigate in 2022. Like uh, one of the strategies, like a few bots we developed, essentially, and they focused on there is no proper way to describe, because like I would say it's like our proprietary development, but equity tail risk takeover. So we had a few bots which essentially main goal was just to like enter when somebody is massively losing money, and I won't disclose how it works for now. But it
Of
was a
course,
really,
right.
really interesting experience, at least for me, because I mean, like our founder Alex, he's I would say one of the best traders I ever met, and like he have really, really interesting, not just the experience but view on the market, and like everything what he does. It's innovative and at the same time makes sense. Like he's one of those really interesting people you want to meet in your life. So yeah.
Interesting.
um,
Interesting.
and then yeah, as well, like we navigated throughout 2022 with fun, obviously in quotation marks. It was really stressful period and not easy.
I can
When you
imagine.
see as well, like started with Luna as well, like FTX already by the end of the year, but at the same time, in
Yeah.
the meantime, after Luna, there's hedge funds collapsing, quant funds collapsing, Three Arrow Capital getting broke, Grayscale, and few and all the rest. Markets are
Yeah.
dumping, and
One
just kind
after
of trying
another.
to deliver, and you're trying to deliver because we had as well taken capital for management, and like and after they have an idea that like building models, even successful models, and managing capital are two completely different things. And we decided to go towards the direction of like making models, building models, uh, and leave the execution management already to traders who will provide the software. And we essentially want to become this like kind of big developer in crypto space. And we have really big plans, in terms of like spread fighter. Right now, everything you see out of like what we have already on the back end, calculations and some sort of models ready, um, it's about like 10-15% possibly, like hard to gauge like in terms of actual like percentage wise, but it's just a fraction. And we're not gonna stop even after we build everything what it's on like what's on our roadmap. So we're just gonna keep constantly bringing new models because markets change, and we just want to become this software developer which will be staying here and just providing the top tier guns.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, man. Really looking forward to it. So let's shift gears a little bit, and you know, um, what are your thoughts on the macro in terms of Bitcoin and crypto and where it's headed? Do you keep, by the way, do you keep an eye on that, and do you stay informed on what's going on globally in terms of the economy? And what are your thoughts in terms of where we're headed in the future?
I mean, in the future, hopefully it will be the bright future. I'm keeping an eye on like the overall the macro world for a while. Like I have so out of my background, as I mentioned, I have like whole my family is kind of finance involved, and I all like being taught this since I was a kid. Uh, and I also have the finance degree, so it also helps a bit with understanding everything in terms of like like the macro and microeconomics.
Hmm.
And statistics and in global trade. Um, the I personally think as well, like it's not a breakout for, I'll say, like the times are hard now. Like interest rates rising. Like I live in Sydney, the housing market is absolutely cooked, and all across the
Absolutely.
globe, it's insane. Inflation rates as well. We have major conflicts going around the world, which also destabilize the economy. And we kind of in this scenario where like something bad have to happen, so like in terms of like economically speaking, something bad have to happen, so it will just be a major clear out for all the mistakes being made. Because like when you make mistakes like on a macro level, like let's say as like if you're taking like United States as an example, like of a major and leading economy, they made a lot of mistakes which spread across the world. Is and the US is influencing the economy of the rest of the world, but those mistakes will be shown only over time. It's not something what immediately shown, but like those kind of like we will see after effects from it. And I think something important will happen that will drop the markets. um, and and after that, hopefully it will recover. It will depends on how bad it's going to drop, right? Because times
Yeah,
change, and as well,
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
obviously want to hope for the best. I want to hope everything being resolved like across the globe, peacefully with all the
Mhm.
major conflicts, and the economy will be like somehow led into brighter times without any damage. But like I'm a bit realistic, so like always have to be ready for the worst in terms of economy. For some tough times, like same as a global financial crisis or the Great Depression. Right now, there are a lot of similar
Right.
signs, as of the Great
Yeah,
Depression. Um, so the best things to do is to learn to actually like not doing risky things, not doing dumb stuff, but at the same time still being like kind of like looking for the right risk to take. um, and yeah, and hope for the
yeah,
best.
absolutely.
Do the best
Yeah,
and hope for the best.
absolutely. There's I don't know if you've read this book by Ray Dalio. It's called Changing World Order, and it talks about this in detail. He basically studies cycles, like macro cycles, right, in terms of empires that have had reserve currencies in the past. And it's very fascinating because of aggregate human behavior. The way that the pendulum swings is very similar, like when it comes to each empire and the way that everything plays out. And it's very interesting how the phases change within that cycle, right? And so, like you mentioned, everything that doesn't happen overnight, right? Mistakes sort of pile up over time, which eventually lead to something happening. Now, I don't claim to be a macro expert by any sense of the word. That's a whole art and science in of itself, and it's extremely complicated. But I like to stay informed as well. And just looking at everything that's going on currently, it is a bit troublesome. And I think eventually something needs to give, right? I mean, it's just unsustainable the way everything's going. But like you said, it's good to be positioned while staying informed. And also, the other thing I'd like to mention along the same lines is a lot of traders actually suffer from this. Is they fixate on the macro, and it actually impacts their trading as well. Have you seen that? Because I've seen that quite a bit, where people suffer from the macro, and it actually bleeds into their trading as well.
Hmm. I also used to have some sort of influence, and I think up to this day, it still have some sort of influence overall, like on a bigger picture. The same time as I'm trading intraday, like I don't really care about the big picture, um, because sometimes my positions like a couple of hours, like just some sort of inefficiency or like price insensitive buying, and you just take the knife, for the mini reversion. These kind of not impacted by the macro, but at the same time, I'm not really like heavily positioned right now, like in terms of like long-term exposure or medium-term
Mm,
exposure. Um, and yeah, well, about the book as well, changing the world order. I haven't read it through. I mean, as all book. I sometimes just read book, get an idea, and kind of like evaluate it in like, get a 80-20 rule again. As idea is pretty clear to me, and I agree that like empires tend to have decay, and non-empires last forever. And as well, like maybe not even probably the unpopular opinion, or maybe like some people have the same thought, but I personally think that the because the United States act as an empire, and I'm also not a macro economics expert, but I feel and I think that like times of the United States as an empire are coming to an end. Not now, maybe another 10, 20 years. I mean, like looking at history, but it's already the beginning. And it probably as well, like as you live in the States, you see the, because I see mainly the videos, but you kind of see this like fall, like, in culture,
Yeah,
in the economy as well, like at least the debt, which have to be kind of like managed, at least like not even repaid, I'm not saying about that, but kind of have like will have to have certain endpoint. And also like just by looking at everything, don't want to go into politics and in like like these complex economics
yeah.
topics, but at the same time I think United States are like, if they're not going to fix anything immediately and not going to start taking a bit more wise actions, it's going to come to an end.
I agree with you 100%. And yeah, we can have a pretty detailed discussion on the politics aspect of it and how things are evolving in terms of certain perspectives. But once you start printing money as a reserve currency, I mean, looking at empires of the past as well, once you start printing money, it's basically you're signing up to keep digging deeper into that hole, right? It's a runaway train. It's just not sustainable, right? So at some
Hmm.
point, like something is going to need to give. And like you said, I mean, I'm not a macro expert. I'm not going to like put a timeline on this, but like you said, it could be a decade, it could be 2 decades down the line. But I really do think that we're headed for something, in the
Yeah,
future.
I'm also like I would say myself describe myself as a macroecon enjoyer, enthusiast.
Exactly, you're
Um,
enthusiast. There
yeah,
you go. That's
there
what
is
it
a
is.
really interesting theory, like it's called modern monetary policy, modern monetary theory, just as an idea, like it's also and something what already kind of happening. There's a really interesting channel called Economics Explained. The guy explains everything super nicely, and I think the Bill Kirk, he's also an Aussie. Um, and amazing channel. He also made a video about it, and I watched a few others, just read some stuff online, and it's just reflecting the way, like at least giving you like some food, mental food, for digestion, to think through, and just please be aware about the current trends. But this modern monetary policy is a really interesting concept, which kind of might work out, but might not. Most likely not,
Yeah.
in my opinion, in my humble opinion, as well as a macroecon enjoyer.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. But for anyone listening, and I'll send you the book as well. I think Changing World Order by Ray Dalio is a really great book. It really breaks everything down in a rational and logical manner and looks at past cycles and kind of lays everything out in a pragmatic manner. So definitely check that out if you get a chance. So the other thing I wanted to ask you was, are there any narratives that you're currently keeping an eye on or pique your interest? I mean, right now it's really difficult to even gauge what the next narratives will be, but is that something you're keeping an eye on, or you're not really looking at that right now?
In terms of narratives, you mean like in crypto space or just overall
It could be
in the
crypto or
world
in
space?
general. Yeah, you can talk about both if you're
I
looking at
personally,
what in crypto and in general.
yeah, I kind of can't define many trends in crypto right now, aside like having a lot of scams there, and even like some promising projects just being like complete joke. I don't remember the last successful launch of a product. Like so not from the perspective, like for example, out of successful launches of software, it's like it can be called well data, for example. Um, Really cool product as well. I would love to see as well Spirit Fighter also doing even beyond that, just because of by the idea of like it's a bit more intraday trading. Um, but if there is some sort of project which kind of involves like the tokenomics and some sort of like decentralized DEX trading alts, um, probably the roll beat would be one of them. But it's again, it's a gambling machine essentially. It's a gambling machine, but it's really hard to name some successful projects which actually impressive, some sort of technology in crypto, which kind of yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree
Liquid
with you.
derivatives taking as well
I
was pretty good, but aside nothing.
I agree with you 100%. So that's the thing I like to talk about as well in terms of dexes is there's a narrative in terms of dexes, and I've been working with Vest Exchange. The team's phenomenal, and we were talking about arbitrage opportunities and all that stuff, and the way that Vest is handling things is allowing the listing of really illiquid assets, right? And they handle funding rates in a dynamic fashion. So depending on the long to short imbalance, it creates a lot of arbitrage opportunities. with people like you or traders like you that are interested in arbitrage opportunities where they're either shorting on the DEX and longing on a CAX and or shorting and longing on different DEXs. There's going to be a ton of opportunities, and also in terms of hedging, a lot of people uh, that are managing funds have a lot of beta exposure where they're investing in some of these lower market cap coins. So it's also going to allow you to basically hedge on the platform. So the team's phenomenal, and they've been building, for a while, and I'm really looking forward to, you know, uh, the next testnet as well as mainnet, and so everyone can experience what they've been building because I've been extremely impressed with what they've been doing behind the scenes.
No, that's really interesting as well because you told me a few things as well on our previous call about it, and I'm actually excited to to test out and check it out. And as well because I mentioned, yeah, there are not many products I can name or like softwares I can name out of successful kind of just get the second thought, and maybe like I was mainly speaking as well for not successful products with coins having there, but at the same time, hyper liquid exchange looking really promising. Peer trade exchange, like for pairs trading. Also, I think launched just like about a week ago out of beta phase, for testing. Also really promising. Haven't tried it yet, but like it was on my list, soon. And as well, like those type of like don't want to describe it as a product, but those ideas and those teams that build like something for trading, I think they have the way to go. Same as like like Unibot, for example, kind of like like they made a small revolution in DEX trading, and also Shuriken as a trading platform that is being developed by fellow Aussies as well. Shout out to them. Had a chat with them as well not so long ago. But those tools that help traders to trade, I think they always will be like demanded in terms of like if it's a good software, people will use it, and if it's a good exchange, people will also use it. So those developments will always have a rise, essentially, in my opinion, as long as it's not mismanaged. Like for example, like like sushi, sushi swap. It's a
Oh yeah,
project that
yeah,
died, just by like they did a soft rug essentially, just by showing complete incompetence kind of thing. And it's better than the like the hard rug, I think, in my opinion, because products come and go, um,
yeah.
especially those ones. But again, the idea behind the trading software, the trading exchanges, and like as well overall infrastructure that helps traders to trade, I think it will gonna excel as well, like throughout this market, and will be kind of on top of everyone's eyesight, when good times come.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to some of these products being released, and also Vest coming out, and I'm excited for you to try it out and like get your thoughts on it as well. So the other couple of things that I wanted to touch on, and I'm interested in hearing is, do you have any memorable trades or something? Any insightful experiences that you've had while trading that you want to share with the audience that you think might be, I mean, it could be something funny too. It could be something funny or memorable or anything that you want to share.
I think one of my most like remarkable experience from trading is the Solana pump, just because it's the only liquidation I had. Like I always managed my risk pretty well till the point that like I just don't want to accept liquidation as like as an idea for myself. Like I just don't want to end up in liquidation position. But the Solana pump was the only liquidation I personally experienced. I had as well at the moment Algo, like as well small momentum bot, trading really simple stuff there. Haven't had like stop losses like assumed for this model because they haven't been like I haven't built them there essentially. And it was a really simple bot which I think like can work pretty well in the good times, even if I take that like raw script like from the first days of like trying Algo from the first times. It will perform pretty well if deployed correctly on a correct coin. um, but it was I do have visual screenshots of this. It was close to 1800% return on the like overall in the portfolio on the investment at that moment in a sub account.
Yeah.
And it evaporated on a there was couple of hours candle, like essentially 2 hour period where it just dumped like 34%. And essentially from top to bottom it cleared out all the leverage. I mean, from top to bottom cleared out all the leverage above 3. My leverage was 5, so I was cleared out even earlier. And it's kind of like I assume there won't be such severe volatility in 20%. I just like I was not even sleeping. It's not my sleep. I was kind of like operating the thing and keeping an eye on it. And that was a pretty big mistake of mine in terms of like good learning, but some money was lost there. Some already at that moment sizable money because of the thing printed. And the point
Yeah, I can imagine.
as well, it was a kind of remarkable experience for me because it influenced my trading a lot. And since then, I don't take like any excess leverage. I'm always super careful about my risk. And as well, I kind of realized that yeah, you can be profitable trader for a couple of years, but if one day you blow up, like does it matter? I mean, you probably learned a lot, and you can even possibly try to make it back. But I think, like even like from the mental perspective, that like I kind of like spend it didn't took me that long, to be fair. It was not something like I spent like a whole year preparing for, and like yeah, it was something like really quick. The pump lasted for a couple of months. I was playing it for a month, um, but still, it kind of left this disappointment in myself and maybe in the market a little bit. And after that, I became even more careful. I always been kind of risk, like I had low risk tolerance, even though I'm trading crypto, but I always try to kind of like approach it with low risks, at least not by taking like 50x leverage or even anything above than 5 or 10. It's pretty much go zone for me. Um, but that's remarkable. Also, out of like positive ones, because this was pretty much negative experience, and we talk as well about the and macro and stuff, and it's kind of looking sad. Out of good ones, at least for me, I missed out on Luna, but I picked up the Luna bottom, like literally the bottom of the bottom you can pick up. I think like from the bottom it pumped like another like 30-40% because the percentage has been absolutely mad. But I grabbed a 69 or like six, like oh I remember 68, 69x right from bottom to top.
Oh,
Not on
damn.
all size. I always say out, but I picked up that bottom because there was a pullback when like Luna hit 0.00000 moment, and I woke up. I literally woke up. I'm like, oh, this thing is dead. What if I just try? I deployed small money. It was just some capital. I'm not afraid to lose because if it will go even below. But it went up only, almost 70x from bottom to top, and obviously I didn't grab all the 70x. It was like from DCAing out was around like 25x approximately, maybe even something around that range. Um, but it was really interesting trade. I remember as well, even like from having the whole Luna crash because it kind of like damaged the market quite a lot. I wasn't positioned in Luna like before that, and I was kind of missing out. I saw it pumping, and I'm like, and I don't like to like FOMO into big pumps. I think it already went quite far, so yeah, I'm just gonna wait for the next one. And then we all remember what happened. It was pretty much a year
Yeah,
and a half ago, year and a half.
yeah. No, I think anyone who's been trading for long enough has had. I mean, especially in crypto, man. There's been so many, so many events and opportunities that everyone has some crazy stories or like, some experience that they've gone through.
Yeah, just be exposed to this market, and you'll get a lot of fun and not really
You have plenty of
memories about it.
stories to share. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, absolutely. So one thing I'm curious about is what does a typical trading day look like for you? I mean, we joke about it, like waking up and just going straight to your computer and trading. But what does a trading day actually look like for you in general?
but it actually really similar. I would say, like from the beginning of my day, I wake up, make myself some coffee, just have a small breakfast, and pretty much eat it on my desk. I start looking at the market, seeing what happened. Because in my case as well, since I live in Australia, the time zones are completely flipped. So essentially, I go sleep when the New York session opens, and I wake up when it closes. So I'm kind of like at that moment when I have to pick up what did I miss, what happened, and I'm just essentially waking up, start reading news mostly. I'm just first thing probably is the news, then the charts, to understand the role in the narrative. Probably like 5 minutes of news, like look at some charts in the meantime. Obviously it can be combined, having few screens, and read while I'm drinking coffee, having breakfast, I'm just getting up to speed, and seeing what can be traded today, what's happened, if there's anything, and I start shortlisting coins for potential pumps or potential knives, just something to trade. Like my trading day actually haven't changed much from the 2020 when I started doing so, like actively trading intraday. Um, and I just wake up, grab some breakfast, and I start looking for coins. I start trading them. Then I have a break for lunch. Then as well, I keep trading, or just right now as well. It's also not. I'm not always trading at the moment, but I still like actively looking at the market because as well it's as well having the spread fighter. I also have to be involved into that, and I'm taking quite a lot of different
Right.
roles. So for this reason, it's also like I still start with the markets because that's the area where I'm working in. But at the same time, it's also picking up different things, writing some code in the meantime while I'm trading. For example, like because if you get one good entry, or if you're watching some interesting scenario, you can just have it on one of your screens and doing something else on other, and just keeping an eye on it every couple of minutes. Like, yeah, still nothing. Oh, that might be the time. And yeah, my days would say I would describe them like Monday to Friday. Might be quite boring. I also, usually go to gym before dinner, 3 times a week. Just to keep myself healthy. Going for some walks. Maybe sometimes, like if I'm not feeling like working, like sometimes you wake up or exhausted, or maybe like problems sometimes happens like if you oversleep. Sometimes you go to sleep at 2 o'clock and you wake up like at 10. In this case, I need maybe like 30 minutes just to go for a small walk. But it's pretty classic stuff. There's nothing that really stands out. I don't do morning meditations, cold showers, and I think it's already a thing of the past, of the bull market, think of the
Hey,
bull
don't
market,
make
and
fun
as
of
well
me.
like this.
Don't make fun of me, bro. I do take cold showers.
No, I actually think I love taking cold showers. Also, it's actually like I'm saying I'm not taking them. I do love mixing. Just like contrast showers. Wakes you up, and I actually do meditations as well. As fun as it gets, I do sometimes, like especially like after lunch, close my eyes for 10 minutes and just kind of meditate. It will help me, to cope with different stuff during the COVID lockdowns. And since then, I kind of apply this practice. I wouldn't say there's like a system to it. I'm just like I keep it like as a card in my sleeve, for like gathering your thoughts together. And it's coming as simple as like eating healthy, yeah, doing some sport as well, keeping peace with your mind, I would say, is important. And yeah, a lot of my time dedicated to work. I sit in front of my computer for quite a lot. So it's also, I think it's really important not to just uh, to maintain healthy physical condition, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with that. And this is a good segue, and you've kind of basically touched on everything that I wanted to bring up is, how to manage stress and how do you reset. Um, Actually, one good question is like, how do you gauge when you need to reset or step away? Because a lot of people have issues with that as well, right? I had those issues early on as well, where looking back at it, the one issue I had was I'd get one big win, and then I'd loosen my risk management, right? Because I had those profits to play with. So then I'd take a
Hmm.
loss with that looser risk management, and that would hurt, right? So now I want to make that money back, and what would happen is I would actually start compounding smaller losses, and I kid you not, it happened a bunch of times, and where I had to look back and realize, okay, once I mean, everyone's different, right? Some people say, okay, when you're in the flow of things, you should just keep going, right? When you're winning, just keep at it. But for other people, like I've noticed for myself, once I start winning or have a streak or have one big win, it's time for me to take a little bit of a break before I get back into it.
That's a really kind of important. It's a really important topic you brought up, because I also like sometimes have those scenarios where I make a good trade. For example, like in the first trade of the day, just woke up, had fresh mind, took something nice, and then I started looking for some hustle, and one stop loss, couple of stop losses. It happens rarely, I would say, and I try to cut it as quickly as possible. Because usually stop losses, it depends what you take. Because like if I'm taking a knife scenario, which I would always take, and I'm getting a stop loss because like the move, for example, it's still not over. That's okay. But if I try, okay, this looks maybe like a good positional long. Maybe if I drop a bit size here, and maybe if it when maybe comes into play, I realize that's not something I'm really interested to take. And still sometimes happens, sometimes you start feeling euphoric if you get a good trade, and that's why as well managing your emotions is important for a trader. At the same time, it's also like sometimes this, like I remember I have really mixed experience. Most of the times it leads to unnecessary stop losses, and I like after taking a 2 3 weird trades, maybe even less, usually 1 2, I said like, okay, stop time to stop doing that and just focus on what really matters. Because again, as I mentioned, I still not only as a trader but also have work to do, and I'm usually getting back to work and keeping an eye on only those best scenarios what I usually take. um, but sometimes it still happens. You want some action. At the same time, there's also one interesting like risk management practice, or maybe like I would say like overall kind of trading management practice. When you have a really big win, and you see next really interesting scenario, you can allocate a bit more position size with higher risks. Essentially, you have this pillow. Essentially, you have this like amount of money you can lose because you maybe won more than you usually should, for example, what you usually do. And that's a way to boost your deposit, like in scalping specifically. When you do, like when you grow in your deposit, you can be a bit more risk averse. And if you had a really profitable sequence of trades, and you see like you actually going with the flow today, not just like over trading and being lucky, but actually taking the right decision, taking the right knives, for example, or right breakouts, and market is active, and it lets you grab those money. Sometimes it's just worth going for. So but it's also as well coming from personal. Like, there are no blueprint again. Yes, you made 5 profitable trades in a row. There are this many coins pumping on the market. Just go for it. It's just probably something what purely comes with your feeling of not just the market, but your as well yourself as a trader.
Yeah, extremely well stated. I think it's very individualistic in nature. And like you mentioned, it's just something that you need to go through and understand when it comes to yourself is what the right way to manage your emotions are when it's time to step away. And I think part of that also, I think you've spoken about this as well on your Twitter account, is journaling, especially for beginners. And even now, like
Mhm.
I like to journal whenever I can. But especially as a beginner, I think it's so important to journal your trades and understand what those patterns are so you can look back and kind of assess what's going right and what's going wrong for you.
I think overall, yes, journaling is definitely like a journaling is something that is mostly native to professional traders. Like it's a way like how you can differentiate like professional trader from some like just some beginner, for example. Beginners also do have journals as well. So not like if somebody is like having some mentorship from actual like good scalper, let's say good trader, they most likely will recommend them using not even recommend, but like will kind of force them to journal their trades, um, because I think it's really, really important. Like obviously your PNL is showing your performance, and it's really easy to see. Like in trading, you can see your performance super, super quickly just by looking at the PNL difference. At the same time, there are moments where, for example, um, you're doing something right. Like clearly, for example, you catching those breakouts really well, you're trading them really well, and for example, it can be even put in like in a trader's handbook, right? How to trade a breakout, for example, with fake out, or like if you clear out before the breakout, um, or fake out with fake out with clear out, and then the
Right.
breakout. Some people just really good at picking up different scenarios, and I think it's really important to know your strength again, like it's like your edge, like whether it's coming from the execution or just being able to spot certain like scenarios where you able to perform the best, and that's where trading journals comes the best. And also seeing what you do wrong, because when you specifically a beginner trader, you trade like think for a beginner it's important to take a lot of trades, at first, not with full leverage obviously, but some sort of like capital, just to feel this what you do well and what you could handle well. And for this reason, journal will be really good to see and filter unnecessary trades that don't fit your trading style, and see what fits your trading style. Like for me as well, I
Exactly.
also like reviewing my journal just past month. I found a few breakouts, potential breakouts that I'm looking to take with scale entry over the past month have been performing on the best for me. It's something what I keep like as a tool to enter into, like as a way of entering into a breakout sometimes. And it performs well from time to times, but I kind of see that the market right now, for example, is not going for it, because again, you can have a profitable strategy but just not the right time for it. And it's also helping you to kind of like, you have arsenal of different ways. For example, I still, like, it's not just I'm taking all the knives. I have a few different ways, what I want to trade, or a few different type of trades I want to take. And you just pick the best ones which work the best right now. And it's also like when agility comes in, because markets regime change quickly, from down only to, like, pumping market. And you have to be able to gauge that and see, okay, right now it's worth taking the continuations of the move today, for example, I think. And you might be correct for it, might be wrong, but only your actual performance will tell.
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned, I think P&O can get deceptive as well, especially for a beginner, in terms of learning how to actually trade, because you could be exhibiting bad behavior and your P&L could be going up for the time being, but then it could come back and bite you. So I think, like, journaling, especially for beginners, is extremely important in that journey of actually finding out what works for you as well, when you're trying out different things. But yeah, this has been a great conversation. I wanted to shift gears a little bit as we wrapping up this conversation, and find out about, like, what are your hobbies, because I've seen you post cars on Twitter as well. You mentioned you work out and run and stuff, but what are your hobbies outside of? I mean, if you want to call I mean, trading's our passion, right? So we could call it a hobby, that's some
Yes.
form or another. Obviously, it's our job or work too, but what are your hobbies outside of trading?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I love cars. You will come back to that in a second. But I just went for the test drive of a new Type R today. Just literally before the convo, like
Oh,
when I messaged you that
nice.
I'm.
Nice.
Yes, and 2023 Type R, because I'm still looking, like, for a car to get, like, I'm just taking my time and probably not the priority for me, but I really wanted to drive, and it's an amazing car. Uh,
Interesting.
Really hot,
Actually, just one of my
really hot.
friends. Yeah, one of my friends got the I don't know the exact name of the color, but it's a blue one. The blue Type R,
Oh, it's
or it
the
turns
it's
blue.
the it's called Sonic Gray. I literally, like,
Sonic. Yeah,
oh
there
my
you
god,
go. That's the name.
it's
That's
ama-
the name.
it's amazing. I personally really love, especially the new Type R. The previous one was, I love Hondas, just like the cars they made back in the day, and like for the Type Rs, I think their Type Rs are amazing. Like as a car, in terms of, like, if it's something what you're looking for. I personally like, it's manual, so I'm not sure if I can be driving that thing in, like, in Sydney traffic. But really fun experience, and potentially considering, considering it as a car, but I still probably looking for something else. Just needed to test drive, and you want to see if it's for me or not. But I really love cars, that's for sure. And especially the JDM, Japanese domestic market. Like, one of my favorite cars is Sylvia's 15, and I probably should have bought it ages ago. It just, like, because appreciated in value. You buy any Celia in
Right, right,
Sydney
right, right.
3-4 years ago. Right now it cost, specifically 5 years ago. Right now it cost at least double, maybe even more. They've been really cheap back in the day. And my second, probably my main hobby, actually, like cars. I love them, but it's not a hobby. I'm not a collector. Um, Second, my main hobby already. Almost a couple of hours into the convo. um, my main hobby is music. I'm playing the guitar. I have the synthesizer right next to
Oh,
me.
awesome, awesome.
Uh,
You play
and I
electric?
also
So do you play electric?
I have the acoustic. I
Okay, I play acoustic as
not.
well. I play acoustic as well.
Oh, okay, nice. Good to meet fellow musician as well.
Yeah.
For me, it's just a hobby, just to, like, release
Exactly,
maybe
exactly.
good way, for, I think it's like, for the way to let your emotions speak through the music, something like this. And I also used to do, before doing trading, I used to do music production. I'm using Ableton, for my essentially making, like, would say like at first I was even trying to sell some of my beats. Didn't brought it far.
Oh,
Mainly
that's
made
very
some
interesting. That's very
productions
interesting.
for a few friends of mine. But
Right.
it's pretty much it. And up to this date, I make only just like something. I would say I'm not sure how to describe. I'm mixed genres. Like I don't have like like I'll make only this or only that. I have a bit of everything, and it's
Mhm.
mainly coming as well from how I feel. If I
Right.
also like sometimes I'm using samples a lot. If I find a good sample and idea comes right to my head, I might just add drums, mix it, master together, and my playlist specifically been pretty dry lately. So when the playlist is dry, the like one thing you can do is just make something for yourself. As simple as it gets.
That's awesome, man. That's good to
Really,
hear. That's pretty
really
cool.
making it for myself, and yeah, and recently started getting back to it as well. And right now, I'm making a video, for example, like about the how to use Spirit Fighter as well, mainly for scalping. Like
Right,
just
right.
one of the templates I'm reviewing, and it's also interesting. Like I love this kind of creative workflow where I have a chance to like record, for example, for myself. Like also engineer the video, like do the video production for myself, and also use my music in there. Essentially, like just a bit of art in it. Just trading can be boring sometimes or stressful. Something that keeps me on.
Yeah, I'm smiling as I'm listening to this because I relate to that so much. I come from a very mathematics heavy background, but I love doing creative things like even just writing, playing music, uh, listening to music, even like putting together videos, doing video production, and going into these realms. It's very therapeutic too, and
It
it
is.
puts you like in a state of flow, man. Like I lose track of time when I'm doing some of these things. Sometimes like I can go a whole day without. Sometimes I forget to eat. Like it's actually ridiculous. Like I'll forget to eat sometimes when I'm working on some of these things. So, but yeah, I'm the same way. I love doing some of these
That's
creative things, and yeah, go ahead.
that's the true passion. I say, when you forget to to like about the food when you're doing something, it means that
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
fully into the task,
Food.
fully into the workflow, and that's a true passion. And I think like all of us need to have something like this that helps us or lets us forget about the rest. Because like when you, for example, like in this state of flow and you really not even thinking about food, you rarely worrying about the like overall like kind of day management, or like I would say already losing my speech. You forget about the daily routine, daily problems, just regular stuff, and it's really important as well. Like it's another way of stress relieving and coping with the day to day. Everyone have to have some sort of hobby like this, and music is a great one.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And you were talking about cars earlier. Like, I'm a car enthusiast as well, but in the other direction. So I'm like a American muscle car person, and I love manual cars. I had a manual Mustang GT for a while, but in
Oof.
traffic, man, it was such it was ridiculous because I took the cats off of that thing, so it was so loud. It was obnoxiously loud. Like I had to retire that
Well.
thing. I had to retire the thing. It was obnoxiously loud, man. It was extremely loud.
Yeah, the
But
American
yeah.
muscle cars also get like it's essentially like I would say like the new car production, the new car manufacturing, and even like they still make the Mustangs and Hellcats, for example, the new ones, but the old cars really got sold into it. They got something extra, and like for example, like the muscle cars from like the 60s to 80s period in America probably been the peak, like this 20-year period when they've been making like the most legendary cars for the market. Maybe
Absolutely.
even a bit later, but I would say like the majority. And same goes for like 90s to 2000 for JDM cars, like 80s to 2000 when they make like the Supra, the GTR, the S15, the NSX, the S2000. I mean, I can name them all. But there's always a period in like every like major car manufacturer period where it's just legendary cars.
I agree with you 100%. That's why, like, in the future, I want like one of those Vestura mod, like like a Vestura mod 60s muscle car. I think that, yeah, I don't know if you've seen those. Those look so cool, like with the body kits and everything, and it's completely
Hmm.
redone. Like they basically the body is the same, but everything else is basically redone for the most part. But
But I think it's
anyways,
also like
yeah,
carve
go
your
ahead.
soul for a soul.
Yeah,
You know.
basically, yeah, you are kind of doing away with the soul of the car when you're doing that. But yeah, I didn't realize how much time. This has been a great conversation so far, but I
It
think
is.
let's start wrapping it up. I think the last couple of questions that I had for you were, first of all, what advice would you give to someone who has just started trading or is in the beginning phase of their trading journey? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there as well, and some of these shortcuts that are going around. What would you tell these people?
Um, I would say first one probably being patient. Again, just as well, like not it's really easy to say, hard to actually become patient. But at the same time, just keeping this idea in mind that everything is gonna come as long as you're gonna be exposed to the industry. You're always gonna have this kind of moment where you like where you shine, for example. You're always gonna meet the right people and just be exposed. Keep doing what you're doing. At first, it might be really challenging. So um, probably trying out a lot of different things at the same time, like not switching from one strategy to another, but it shouldn't be like a kind of thing that the person like I don't feel like doing this. It should like there should not be any friction in moving if you found something what should probably suit better for you. Again, if you're trying like again like knife catching, it doesn't work for you at the beginning, try something else and maybe later you'll come back to it once you already get more experience and you'll start understanding, because a lot of things as well for me clicked. As I mentioned, like I was looking at knife catching at first, and I like not for me, but in the future, like for me now personally, it clicked. And my trading journey is even was fun. Like I was never planning to become a trader in the first place, as I mentioned, like from stock investing, and never been planning to go into quantitative side of things on top of it. But it's everything what happened for me. So I would say being exposed to the industry, to like to the market, opens up a lot of doors in front of you. Like you never know what's going to happen, and if you think like, yeah, I'm not going to do this, for example, who knows, maybe in a couple of years you will, like genuinely will, and it will be your best thing what you ever done, just with the right skill set and knowledge. And right now it's the time to actually learn, and the best way for learning, I would say, like it's really important to develop your critical thinking, like actual ability to do independent research and kind of think for yourself, because a lot of traders try to rely on like some external sources, like yes, this guy doing good signals, like it might be actually those might be actual good signals, but it's like it's not sustainable. You're not thinking for yourself, you just copy trading someone. And one more to it, ideally have to, there's a saying like you are who surrounds you, or like how it says, I mean the idea is the same. You are the five people you know the best, for example. um, just staying around skilled traders or finding a mentor for yourself or somebody who just you follow and who you think is doing the right things. At first it's quite hard to gauge who is doing the right things, but if you just try to find somebody who will share their experience, share their knowledge with you, I think it's really helpful. Because for me, in my case, well, again, like Alex, the founder of Spread Fighter, he shaped my trading a lot and like put a lot of really necessary like seeds of thoughts into me. And I think up to this date it's like the foundation, aside from what I personally developed. But he also gave me a lot of like areas where I haven't looked before, and I looked and I kind of, yeah, that makes sense from this perspective. So it's important to meet the right people. But again, being exposed to the industry and to the space, it is what lets you meet those people.
Absolutely. Yeah, you brought up some great points. I mean, sometimes you think you're headed in one direction, but some opportunities open up that I think you should be adaptable and open to try out some different things. I mean, you took a chance with, going to quant trading and all and trying it out. And I think that's the kind of mindset you need to have, is have like an open mind and try different things and see, what opportunities come up, be adaptable. And in terms of trading, like you said, being a critical thinker. And I think being able to teach yourself things as well as recognizing good information. Obviously, when you step into a completely new realm, you're kind of clueless as to what's good information and what's not. But if you're a critical thinker, over time you can really parse out information that is blatantly sounds
Yes.
incorrect.
Yes, I mean, like the
Uh,
most of the professional traders, skilled traders, I know they really critical thinkers, and it's like it's a chicken and egg problem. Like I'm personally not sure whether the person developed critical thinking throughout the trading. 100% sure it's like it's being enhanced by the time of trading, but at the same time, I think most of the people I met they already had some sort of like like the foundation, and they
exactly.
always been like critical thinkers before starting trading, and just maybe being enhanced as well. We all grow, we all learn new things, and even outside of trading. So I think like the critical thinkers excel, and also probably like the final advice, uh, something what helped me a lot as well. It's keeping things simple, especially at the beginning. Like later, you can always complicate things, but if you start complex, you'll get lost and you'll lose interest. If you start simple, you'll have a lot of room to enhance and like build out on top of that. And it can be as well like the people try to jump into quantitative trading and like, yes, I'm gonna
Yeah,
build myself a bot which trades 40 pairs simultaneously, and mm, well, good luck if you're a good coder, maybe if you already had some experience, but it's really hard. Just build yourself, like if you're
absolutely.
looking to get into quant trading, just build yourself a bot which takes trade on, I don't know, moving average crossover, like as simple as it can get. RSI oversold overbought, I mean, also might work. Not that really, but probably the crossover, like with good trends, you can like if you operate that thing well, I think it's a pretty sustainable on its own, at least out of simple things. Because it's not like you're coming into a new space like into quant and you're actually gonna start doing something what like top hedge funds are doing, and on your own, it's really hard, I would say. For this reason, starting simple will help you to evolve naturally and not get lost.
That's such a great point. I think a lot of people think that everything needs to be extremely complicated. It's actually the other way around. Like there's so much elegance and simplicity, right? So being able to do the fundamentals or the simple things right is the way to go. Especially as a beginner, I think you really should understand how to build up from simple things. And I see a lot of people make this mistake as well. As some people don't even understand how futures work in their trading. It's like at least start off from the basics, understand how and why prices move, what a limit order is, what a maker and taker. People don't understand these fundamentals. So I would really urge anyone who's listening in to go back and brush on those things and really start from that foundational, knowledge. How do perps work? How do prices move? What's a maker and taker? These sort of things should be kind of where you start and build on if you want to start trading.
100% agree as well. There's definitely beauty in simplicity, like how you said it. And a lot of as well, a lot of skilled people I know, they kind of always some sort of revert back to simplicity. At certain point, like you can be doing complex things, but at the end you'll try to simplify them. Um, Also depends, not always the case. I mean, hard to say like 100%, like yes, it's always the case. But quite often you would see like somebody who was doing pretty hard things simplifying it naturally, because there's like, I mean, there could be a simpler way to do it more effectively. At the end of the day, like, Pareto principle,
Absolutely.
80-20 rule kind of rules.
Yeah, I've seen that more often than not, that trajectory where people start off simple, they start getting really complicated, and then they revert back to simple things, but that are nuanced. You know what I mean? It's a simple approach, but
Hmm.
it's a nuanced, simple approach. I think that's where people usually end up successful traders.
Yes, you take a lot of successful traders, and some traders, like I know up to this day, still scalping, the breakouts of the consolidation. There's like
Right.
support, resistance, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it is as simple as it can get for any beginner. Beginners will be doing exactly the same thing, but they might be looking at a few extra things again, like open interest rising,
exactly.
maybe some order flow patterns there or something else. It's a bit more nuanced, but at the same time, it's still that simple thing.
100%. So along the same lines, are there any like hints or I hate this word, but alpha that you would like to share with anyone that's listening when it comes to trading
A lot of
in the
alpha
current
is
atmosphere, maybe?
in the current atmosphere. I would say a lot of alpha is coming. I would say probably people would be important who you know, who you listen to. Like it's your network is your net worth. Like quite cliche quote, but at the same time, like it's true. Again, simple things matter. Not from the fact that like people have to be really simple, but simple things as like your circle surrounding you is important. Also, I would say um, good software also important, like starting from the execution terminal which you use, because like some people trade on their phones and doing it profitably, nothing bad about it. But it's more of a like deviation from like the sample mean, rather than like a 100% the case. So I think like software that you use is also quite important, um, because we trade the same markets but we see different things, and what you see is important and how quickly you see it, for example, like for my trading. um, Also, hard to say as well, like this alpha, there is not much alpha to be leaked as well. I think like the whole conversation which we had here over the past 2.5 hours already, time goes quick. It's There's a lot of alpha, like from what we discussed, in essence that it's like the fundamentals that you kind of have to adopt, uh, digest and think through, to really bring yourself forward. We talked about a lot of important things here,
Yes. I
and I
think there's
really
so
like.
much information that we covered. I think there, if anyone who's listening in carefully can extract, we've covered a lot of information over these past 2.5 hours.
And if
So
anyone who's listening up to this point, two and a half
if
hours,
anyone's listening,
yes, if anyone is
you're gonna
listening,
make it. You're gonna
there
make
are few legends who will do it. Big shout out, I mean, first of all, for those who listen till the end, because we covered a lot of important stuff, and I'm assuming it might be something you listen throughout, just trading or doing some things, like as people listen to podcasts, while driving, for example, or in a gym. Um, that's that's a big achievement. I think also important thing as well, like, like our ability to concentrate. We already bring it, into actual podcast. We should make something. Our ability to concentrate on, like, on long-term tasks as well, something what takes you more than 30 minutes to do. It's highly diminishing right now with all of these, like, short content information type of thing. So if you actually manage to come that far, you already probably like on the three sigma positive deviation, from the rest of the market, from the rest of the humanity, just by the fact as well, like, having such concentration and having such ability to listen to the same two dudes, for 2.5 hours.
yeah. Two dudes rambling for 2.5 hours. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of good information. We've covered so much information. I personally have not seen this much information being covered over the course of, or even seen an episode this long
I,
in
I
terms
would
of with
personally
information
encourage,
that
like,
we covered.
if somebody will ask me how to start trading, I'll probably be sending them a link to this video.
Yeah, we should send them a link to
um,
this video because we've covered a lot of information here.
and I try to stay as well as unbiased as possible in terms of like giving my opinion, but understanding that like it might not be for everyone. It's always the case. Like there's
Absolutely.
no blueprint for every single human being on this planet. But I think everybody, can pick up something for their own, even like from idea of thinking and like how looking at the things. We probably have to do another one just purely about
We
trading
have
strategies.
we might have to. We might have to. But like, I mean, we've caveated this so many times. It's so individualistic in nature. But I agree with you. I think there's something in here for everyone that you can pick up on and maybe think about a little bit more and apply to the way you approach trading. And so before we completely wrap it up, are there any Twitter account recommendations? Are there any small account gems or book recommendations or anyone that you'd like to kind of give a shout out to?
Okay, that's an interesting one. Out of accounts, obviously your one, you're sharing a lot of good stuff, a lot of really
Mumbleton, thank you.
useful
Appreciate.
information. That's 100%. Also, like I really like it's not a new, how to say, it's not a small account. It's a Robert James, but he's sharing a lot of stuff like which I personally really agree with. And just by keeping an eye on his account, reading what he does, what he says, it's really important. Um, Out of others, I'm just going through my following list, and it's hard to state only a few. There are a lot of good accounts, and probably as well, like if anyone is really interested, just going through my following list. I mean, there's 500 plus, so don't do that. There's a lot. um, there's a lot, and I really, like, for example, out of quants, Vertex. Padma. They share good stuff, good information.
Yeah,
Also,
Batman's pretty good.
yes, also, who else? Just I'm
Robot
thinking
James
about
drops
with.
some gems sometimes, man. Robot James.
Yeah, I already think I mentioned him. He's a big account.
Oh, you
So,
mentioned him? I missed him.
yeah,
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 yeah.
mentioned. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
Robert
a big
James is.
account.
I mean, yeah, as I mentioned, like he's sharing a lot of useful stuff. So definitely account to follow if you don't follow him yet somehow. Also, Black Swan, sharing a lot of uh, like quantitative things. If you're interested in quant trading, some like interview preparations, if you want to take the classic pop way of a quant, some statistics, and just like there's a lot of accounts like this which cover like the theory and just essentially act as like something to keep an eye on and just learn new things every day over time.
By the way,
Also,
before I'm interrupting you,
mhm.
I'm sorry, but before we move on, I have to squeeze in this question because I'm in the process of doing this is, do you think there's any benefit for discretionary traders to look into HFT algos and how quant trading works in general? Do you think there's a benefit there, and does it carry over to the way you approach trading?
I think in crypto it's quite important just to know at least the basics, not know the mathematics, the logics behind, or maybe even like just
Right.
how to say like 80-20 rule again per the principle, just knowing the basics but not really like learning and applying them. Because like if you don't want to become quant, you don't have to. But why it matters is like 80%. 90% depending as well, most like right now it's closer to 90% of all the liquidity you see in the market, it's all automated. At least the solid 70, let's keep it at solid 70, it's automated. So you have to know who's leading in the order book, like the flora and fauna. I was making a thread as well. I kind of haven't posted it, and was making it a long time ago. Probably have to come back to it. The flora and fauna of crypto market, because there are a lot of really similar bots. At least like you take the market makers, the actual market making bots, the liquidity providers. Like if you take a look at any Bybit, or even Binance. I mean, Bybit have a lot of them, like just like really distinctly visible. You take the current price on any altcoin, you just take a look at the order book, 1% up, 1% below, there will be a lot of liquidity, and those are market making algos, and they always move, and they work that way that you won't hit them. They kind of there to like to collect huge impulses, like
Exactly.
from like.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yep.
it doesn't mean that if you will push an order above than their
Yes.
liquidity, they'll just like remove and they'll get you
Yes.
slipped and they'll get you eaten alive.
Yep.
So for this reason, knowing at least about such things, it's important to be aware about who lives there. And back in the day, like for example, like I was trading again with Scalp, um, you quite often would be able to see, during the peak of bull market there was a lot of them, so-called like just like TWAPs, essentially TWAPs that constantly buy,
Hmm.
and not even like buy like over like 5 hour time frame, like like few hours, but just at the moment, like to the pump, to the impulse, and you're able to see them beforehand. You see the same prints going every second, for example, pretty big orders. And it's usually a good sign, because meaning somebody is interested in like in
Right.
accumulating, and they might be responsible for a solid percentage of the pump, from their
Hmm.
volumes. And if you can
Right.
spot those, it means that you can just essentially front run, not front run them, but just like jump with them and take a ride.
Exactly. Right.
So for this reason,
Oh
it's
man, I'm just
also
thinking about this. Like,
important.
we we could probably go on for another 2, 3. We could probably go on for another 2, 3 hours here. I mean, there's like so much information. We're gonna have to have you on again, man. We're probably gonna have to do another
Yes,
one.
yes. I'm also would be
Like,
happy to
really,
share, just because it's like part one, just the fundamentals, and then we
yeah,
can go, because
exactly.
I barely covered anything about like the trading strategies,
Yeah,
and there's some stuff I personally probably won't cover overall, but some fundamentals which still could be work, like out of what I'm not personally doing at the moment, can talk about it for a long time,
yeah,
out
absolutely.
of what
Maybe in the
I've
future
done
we'll have
before,
to keep going again.
just
But
to make
we,
sure as well, because
right, right. No, absolutely. We can, if anyone's interested, if you're still listening, by the way, it's been 2 hours and 40 minutes. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you for making it to the end, and
achievement
you know.
unlocked.
And also, if you're listening in and you found this insightful, this is going to be a series, and I'm going to be having, really insightful conversations with other folks as well. So stay tuned. And Nick, before we wrap it up, first of all, I'd like to thank you once again for taking so much of your time on a weekend to talk to me. And then if there's anything you want to plug, your Twitter, anything else, your Discord, whatever you want to plug, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you can always find me at Nik underscore Algo in Twitter. Um, I try to share a lot of stuff. Not as often. I mean, just I'm doing around 2-3 posts a day on average at the moment. So it's just, but I'm trying to cover a lot of interesting market scenarios and actually like the reality of market. And in our Discord for the spread fighter users, we just trade together intraday, sharing some of my scenarios, what I'm looking at. We also have a lot of like beautiful traders there who also have really good understanding of the market and essentially, like as I mentioned, learning just by staying around with the right people. I would say that like the Sport Fighter Discord right now is a place to be. We try to talk about a lot of like we have some I would say beginner traders, already some like a bit more advanced, and we have some professional traders there. And we, just if you have any questions, I'm personally always looking at it and trying to answer. So, so yeah, that would be one of the ways you can learn. Obviously, do your own due diligence, and considering if it's for you, we're doing intraday scalping. Um, but yeah, that should be pretty much it.
Awesome. On that note, we'll end this episode with my friend Nick Algo, and stay tuned for the future. We'll be back with more amazing conversations.
Yeah, thanks,